Chapter 483. I know a 10-year-old beef hot pot in the alley over there. The taste is super authentic. How about it? Are you interested? Since gold and silver jewelry couldn't bribe the little assistant, Chen Guang decisively took out another killer weapon. Although this violent aesthetic lowly might explode from time to time, risks and benefits always coexisted. She could really help a lot. Whether it was a video editor or a live broadcast assistant, she was easy to handle. Not to mention that she was useful, Chen Guang almost didn't want to part with her. Okay. The happiness in Xianxia's eyes almost pierced through her sunglasses. Sure enough, all girls like hot pot, even a thick-skinned lowly is no exception. No wonder she asked me if I was the best chef in the world yesterday. I think, if there is a chance, it is necessary to use the cooking cup world. Women can hold up half the sky, and the other half belongs to me. I will use food to conquer the girls, and then the old man will be the king. He silently looked at the 200,000 faith points that he had saved with great difficulty. Well, it was still a little far from enough. However, there was still a long way to go. As long as he thought of ways to increase his faith points every day, sooner or later, the old man would be able to learn anything he wanted. Chen Guang changed his clothes backstage and returned to his fully armed appearance with big sunglasses. He quietly walked out from the backstage passage, but before he went out he was stopped by a group of people. Before Chen Guang said anything, Xianxia stood in front of him and stopped this group of people. Down with Chen Guang. Guardian Goddess. All members of the Asia-Pacific branch of the Pan-Pacific Anti-Baldhead Alliance are here. Down with the scum Chen Guang. 20 to 30 people with uneven height and weight, ages ranging from 15 to 30 years old, but dressed in relatively low-key and not luxurious clothes, tightly surrounded the backstage passage exit of the contestants. That's right, the Anti-Baldy Alliance saw that they couldn't make any noise in the arena, so they simply brought people to block the players' passage. If they could successfully cause a disturbance, the president wouldn't mind giving Chen Guang a hard time. If he could injure this guy, that would be great. Chen Guang was shocked. What? The old man's fan organization hasn't appeared yet. Has the old man's organization expanded to the Pacific Ocean? Beat this Chen shimmy up. Seeing that Chen Guang had been suppressed, the alliance master was overjoyed and shouted, "Charge! If Buddha's strength is willing." Hearing those words, Chen Guang was dumbfounded. Isn't your slogan too casual? What do you mean by forthright? In the end, you guys were sent by the Lich King to amuse me? How can the old man's great career fall into the hands of trash like you? He took a step forward, rolled up his sleeves, and planned to give this group of inexplicable young men a profound lesson in life. Suddenly, Xianxia, who had been standing behind him, rushed out with a whoosh. 2 cold lights appeared in the palms of her hands. In the next second, her slender figure had drifted like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, the group of people outside were already wailing. Xianxia demonstrated a new posture very well. How one person besieged a group of people. That's right, that was the feeling she gave people. Chen Guang shrugged. This scene was so familiar that it reminded him of his good gay friend, Wen, who was in Yanjing and whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Therefore, I can't let a female comrade master such a dangerous weapon like internal energy. Look how bloody and violent this scene is. It really makes people sad and cry. If a mature and steady male comrade like me takes action, the scene definitely won't be so violent. But to be honest, Xianxia's assistant is really useful. She can make videos, do live broadcasts, and is super good at fighting. Moreover, she doesn't have to pay a salary. It's hard to find such a good assistant. About 3 minutes later, Xianxia clapped her hands and walked back expressionlessly. How dare you stop me from eating hot pot? Anti-Bald Alliance? Chen Guang looked at the more than 20 people in front of him who had been shaved. You are the head of the Shaolin Temple Barber Hall. How can you shave so fast? So bright. Xianxia said indifferently, when I was 3 years old, my master taught me to use a flying knife to cut the fluff on the surface of winter melons to practice kung fu. In recent years, if anyone makes me unhappy, I also shave their head to teach them a lesson. Practice makes perfect. Chen Guang shrank back and thought, Did the old man's beautiful black hair live in the abyss of suffering at any time? Don't be nervous. I admire you so much. How can I shave your head? Xianxia squeezed a seemingly sincere smile on her face, but Chen Guang felt that she had better not smile. Her smile was more gloomy than usual. I say, brothers, are you sick? Why are you forming the anti-bald alliance? I didn't provoke you. See, you made my assistant angry, didn't you? Now you are out of luck, right? You have become bald, right? You can't blame me, can you? You don't seem to be injured. Do you need me to help you call the police? Do you need me to pay for the medical expenses? Chen Guang felt that it was better to chat with the president of the anti-bald alliance. It was better to stay away from Xianxia. Looking at the broken hair on the ground, when the wind blew, it was really black smoke filling the sky. It was tragic. The president of the anti-bald alliance, who had become bald, stood up and stared at Chen Guang with eyes full of hatred. He touched his head fiercely, and his palm was stained with countless broken hair. His current sorry state did not cover his peerless heroic appearance. I have been infatuated with Jin Shiyue for 15 years. Since she was just a child, I have been her most loyal fan. But she was tarnished by you. I will not live under the same sky as you. Brother, you really know how to bullshit. As far as I know, Jin Shiyue has only debuted for 10 years. Did you know her through telepathy 15 years ago? The bald president blushed. From the first time I saw that little girl in the TV series, I fell in love with her 5 years ago. Get lost, you should be sent to the mental hospital. Chen Guang could not be bothered with him anymore. He was about to leave with Xianxia. Brothers, power can't make us yield. In order to defend the reputation of the goddess, in order to fight against the shameless fame-fishing Chen Guang, we, the Anti-Bald Alliance, officially change our name to the Anti-Light Alliance. Behind Chen Guang and Xianxia, the bald president was using the most impassioned tone of his life to incite the remaining 10 members. Just from the previous incident, he had lost another 10 members. You don't say, the weather is getting hotter and hotter. I have been wanting to get a haircut for a long time. Now I feel refreshed. I feel the same way. No wonder those football stars like to go bald. When they run, the wind blows on them and they feel more aerodynamic. Anti-Light Alliance. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. The fact that this group of people were able to stick together and not completely disband after today's setback showed that the friendship and fate between the members of the Anti-Light Alliance had been strengthened once again. Those who could persist until the end were the cream of the crop, the backbone of the group. Chen Guang face-bombed. For the time being, he would consider this Anti-Light Alliance as his first fan group. After all, anti-fans were also fans. It was a little embarrassing. Like the type of star, like the type of fan, also like the type of anti-fan. Don't blame yourself. This is all your own doing. Xianxia comforted Chen Guang while eating hot pot. Chen Guang looked at Xianxia silently. You don't have to comfort me. The second round of the competition would begin at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Chen Guang and Xianxia sat in the hot pot restaurant and ate slowly until 2:30 p.m. Then, they slowly walked in the direction of the number 3 hall of the Cultural and Sports Center. After more than 2 hours of brewing, the Dark God statue's production capacity had increased to nearly 7,500 points. The growth was gratifying, but as time went by, the growth was gradually slowing down. Chen Guang knew that as he became more and more famous among the domestic dart enthusiasts, the dart enthusiasts and related professionals, such as those professional players and people like Liang Fazai, would gradually reach a critical point. The explosive growth was bound to come to an end, and he was afraid that he could only increase it slowly. He originally thought that he could only achieve his goal after the national finals in Beijing. He did not expect that this morning, Chen Xiaoxin would jump out to find fault with him. He pushed the boat with the current and showed off his skills on a large scale, quickly pushing his domestic industry reputation to the top. However, as the saying goes, the sooner you buy the Dark God statue, the sooner you can reach the first critical point, the sooner you can save more faith points. If he wanted to expand the potential of the Dark God statue, He was afraid that he could only start from two aspects. First, he could go to the central television and use the wider dissemination effect of the central television to further expand his popularity. At the same time, he could try to make more people like Dart. Second, he could let others know him first, and then go to Weibo to find videos of his other skills, and then send faith points to them. In short, Brother Almighty had thousands of skills, and there was bound to be one that would fascinate people. Another aspect, of course, was to spread his influence abroad as much as possible. After all, there were more than 6 billion people in the world, and China only accounted for a little more than 1/5 of them. When they entered the hall, the last few groups of players in the first round were having their final matches. The hall was still full. Seeing Chen Guang, the onlookers all cheered loudly. In just a single morning, Chen Guang had already become the most popular face in the darts industry in the country. Chen Guang smiled and waved to the audience happily. Looking at the countless white gas of faith points coming from the huge hall, he thought to himself, these are the old man's livelihood. At this moment, a man suddenly stood in front of him, bowed his head, and said seriously, "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry." The man was Qin Xiaoxin, one of Chen Guang's staunchest opponents. At this time, he was no longer arrogant and reserved as a domestic veteran player, only nervous and ashamed. Chen Xiaoxin knew that his behavior in the morning was too much. As a professional player, it was an intolerable insult to be questioned in public in the middle of a game. Even if Chen Guang slapped him hard at this time, he would accept it. Chapter 484. Chen Guang looked at Chen Xiaoxin and silently sipped his tea. "Oh my, brother, you really got to know each other after a fight. 13 points of faith in a day. Brother, you're really strong." Chen Guang smiled warmly and patted Chen Xiaoxin's shoulder. "It's okay, Brother Xiaoxin. It's a great virtue to know your mistakes and correct them. I don't blame you." Chen Xiaoxin was moved to tears. "Mr. Chen. Brother Xiaoxin. Mr. Chen. Brother Xiaoxin. All right. You two control your emotions. It's a live broadcast." Liang Fatsai reminded them appropriately. "Please don't make any overly intimate moves, lest the public doubt your sexual orientation." Therefore, PD Yang deliberately ignored the ongoing game and turned the camera around. Chen Guang and Chen Xiaoxin smiled and briefly hugged to show their friendship. Not only that, but Chen Xiaoxin even posted a new post on Weibo. "I would like to express my regret for my baseless guesses and doubts in the past. Mr. Chen Guang's magnanimity makes me feel ashamed of my inferiority. Mr. Chen Guang, your demeanor as a master is a blessing to the Chinese escort industry." Just as Chen Xiaoxin posted on Weibo, Chen Guang, who was standing next to him, looked at him with a smile. 14, 16, 18. That's right, it stopped at 21. I forgive your mistakes with my broad heart, and you repay me with such devout faith. As expected of a professional player, we can be good friends for life. At the same time, other professional players like Chu Hao, Hua Ming, and Lian Yu also reposted Chen Xiaoxin's Weibo, paying their respects and deeply regretting that they couldn't observe and learn from the same game as Chen Guang. Chu Hao and Lian Yu, two top players who had previously won spots in the World Championship, also expressed their high expectations for Chen Guang to play in the World Championship together. The Amateur Championship was only in the second round of the preliminaries, but the whole country had already booked the champion in their hearts. Right now, the only suspense left was whether Chen Guang would be able to pass through the stage with 9 darts as he said. After all, no matter how good he was, there was still a difference between good and bad performance. What if he made a mistake? In the second round, Chen Guang once again passed with 9 darts. What was even more insane was that in this round he stood 10 meters away and threw 3 darts at once. Especially the last 3 darts, it was simply insane. The 3 darts accurately hit the 20, 19, and 12 double zones. President Liang, who was afraid that the matter would not blow up enough, found a vernier caliper from somewhere and measured the 3 darts individually. What was even more shocking was the accuracy of the 3 darts. Regardless of whether it was up or down, left or right, they were all right in the middle. It was accurate to 0.1 millimeter. The audience was speechless. The pro players' clothes were drenched in cold sweat. We were worried that you would make a mistake. In the end, you actually played more and more skillfully. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. He really wanted to pass with 9 darts until the end of time. President Liang, you can find a more sophisticated instrument to measure next time. Chen Guang smiled and patted old Liang on the shoulder. This guy was really good. Originally, the production of faith points was stuck at 8,000. But with old Liang's move, it broke through the bottleneck of 8,000 in an instant. There was no match for him in the afternoon. Chen Guang said goodbye to everyone on the field and left. The next morning, P.D. Young announced in the studio with tears in his eyes, the broadcast of the Southwest region of the China Amateur Darts Championship has come to a successful end. We have set a historical record for the live broadcast of a darts competition. The highest viewership in the province was 3.18%, and the average was 2.15%. The entire live broadcast program team cheered. Liang Fatsai poked his head in from outside. Old Yang, what's the viewership outside the province? P.D. Yang smiled coolly. We're not a celebrity. Of course, it's 0. Liang Fatsai's face darkened. Your station leader is not smart enough. Today's regional finals should be broadcast directly on Duchuan's satellite TV. P.D. Yang nodded vigorously. That's right. There's another thing that I'm quite puzzled about. Logically speaking, with our viewership being so popular, even if the audience from the other provinces can't watch it on TV, they should come to our website for a live stream. But from the feedback from the station, it seems that the online viewership of the online live stream isn't high either. The highest number hasn't exceeded 300,000. I don't understand. Liang Fatsai looked at Chen Guang, who was smiling slyly at the side. You can ask Mr. Chen. Chen Guang chuckled. Because the audience is all here for me. They're all in my personal live broadcast room. P.D. Yang's heart was filled with blood. Bro, you're so evil. Chen Guang shrugged. I can't help it. Being handsome means you're popular. Speaking of which, President Liang, isn't our prize money a little too shabby? I'm a regional champion after all, and it's only 50,000 yuan. It's not even as much as the gifts that my live broadcast room earned in the past 2 days. Thank you, my fans. Thank you, Brother Guang's #1 fan, for your great sword. As a streamer with ideals and pursuits, Chen Guang had gradually mastered the art of interacting with the bullet screen comments. He was never stingy with his gratitude towards the local tycoons. Liang Fatsai nodded. I think so too. Let me tell you something quietly. If you want to blame someone, blame the leaders of the Yanjing Security Association for doing nothing. They set up such a big platform, but they don't even know how to get more prize money. It's embarrassing to say it out loud. I heard that the new president of our security association hasn't been attending court for a long time. Mr. Chen, you should just throw the blame to our president. Let me tell you a joke. No one in our association knows what the president looks like. Chen Guang was shocked. That's right. Don't you think it's too much? Liang Fatsai nodded. That's right. Don't you think it's too much? It's too much. Don't you think our president is doing nothing without doing anything? Chen Guang stomped his feet. That's right. He's standing in the latrine without taking a shit. A bureaucratic system. Liang Fatsai felt as if he had met a soulmate. The tragedy of the system. A talented and hardworking young backbone like me can only squat in the branch and do the dirty work without seeing the light of day. Chen Guang agreed with him. That stupid president must have someone backing him up to his position. The two of them shrank their necks in the corner and had a great time ridiculing the president of the Security Association in front of more than 1 million viewers of Chen Guang's live broadcast. Little assistant, Xianxia, was in charge of filming from the side. That's strange. Why do I feel a little cold on my forehead? Liang Fatsai suddenly said. Chen Guang also touched his forehead. I feel the same way. Is the central air conditioning too low? Xianxia said coldly in her cute lowly voice. It's nothing. The temperature is just right. After the match, Chen Guang had planned to leave quickly. However, there were many reporters outside the small match that had not attracted much attention. As the champion of the Southwest Division Preliminary, he had to attend the post-match press conference with great interest. To be honest, I didn't expect to have a press conference. Mr. Chen, don't be nervous. I heard that our press conference might be on the sports news of CCTV. Liang Fatsai reminded Chen Guang. Chen Guang was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. I just heard that the reporters at the press conference never use makeup. What should I do? I'm afraid I'll lose fans. All right, pretend I didn't say anything. Liang Fatsai was speechless. In all his life, Chen Guang had never attended a press conference. Although he had always boasted that he was a rising star on the road to stardom, when he sat in the middle of the glamorous press conference table and faced the cameras of dozens of reporters below, his heart still beat faster. In fact, strictly speaking, this scene was far less lively than the trial of Wang Lin. The attention it received might not even be comparable to that public trial. However, things had changed. At that time, Chen Guang had been driven by passion and madness to do something that he had to do. Today, however, he was in no mood at all. Instead, he was suddenly pushed to the front to be interviewed by the reporters. He began to worry. What questions will these guys ask me? How should I answer them? If I say the wrong thing, will it damage my glorious image and affect the production of Faith? Other than that, what does it mean to say the wrong thing? What does it mean to say the wrong thing? Mr. Chen Guang, may I ask when was the last time you met with Jin Shiyue? How's the relationship between the two of you? Do you have any plans to get married? F***CK, the first question is so sharp. Are you trying to kill me? I've never hidden anything about Shiyue and I, but I won't keep it to myself all the time. At the right time, at the right place, we'll answer all of your questions, but not now. This is the post-competition press conference organized by the China Darts Association. Please keep your questions to today's topic. Thank you. Although he was already panicking and didn't know what to say, Chen Guang still answered with a smile. Jiang Yage, who was far away in Beijing, commented, "This guy is quite quick-witted." Jin Shiyue covered her mouth and laughed. Of course. After all, he is the man you like. The reporter sat down awkwardly. Liang Fatsai had already signaled the next question. Mr. Chen, what do you think of the development of darts in our country? What was the reason that made you break your silence and choose to stand out and show everyone your secret art? The second question was much more pleasing to the eye. Chen Guang smiled. He liked this kind of guy. Usually, everyone's understanding of darts is in the bars of movies. In our country, there are very few people who like darts and are willing to train in it. But in fact, everyone has a misunderstanding about this sport. In my opinion, darts is a very elegant fitness program. Long-term training can effectively protect one's eyesight and cultivate one's character. Of course, you must pay attention to your safety. Mr. Chen, you are so outstanding. Do you think there is anyone in the world who can be your match? The third question was even better. Liang Fatsai reminded him softly, Mr. Chen, you should think about it. This guy's words are full of traps. Chen Guang nodded and muttered, Do I need you to remind me? His trap is so obvious. Liang Fatsai was relieved. It's good that you know. Don't fall for it. Chen Guang smiled and looked around the venue. Then he smiled at the reporter who placed the microphone in front of him. Oh, it's actually from Central TV Department 5. I can responsibly tell everyone that not only in the world, but in the history of mankind, no one is my match. I am the strongest. Cough, cough, cough. Old Liang, who was drinking water, almost choked to death. Bro, I feel like this reporter was tricked by you. Chapter 485. Ever since he took part in this competition, he had been acting very high profile and arrogant. Of course, those who knew him would understand that ever since he first posted the video online, he had never kept a low profile. But gentleness and humility were the traditional virtues of the Chinese nation for 5,000 years. Even the top athletes had to put on a humble and low-profile appearance in front of the public. The Central TV Department 5 reporter had watched the entire competition today and was so excited that he subconsciously asked this question. He really did not mean to trick Chen Guang. This was his original plan. Chen Guang answered in a low-profile manner. When he went back to write the press release, he described Chen Guang as someone with great skills but was polite and humble. Then, he was hit in the head by Chen Guang's straightforward answer and could not say a word. Not only the reporter who asked the question, but the other reporters who had prepared all kinds of trap questions also felt that they could not ask the questions they had carefully prepared. We wanted to get some explosive news from you so that we could all have some fun and grab the headlines. Something like a new heavenly king of the escort industry appearing out of nowhere and looking down on his peers. But this step of yours is too much. We don't know how to face this sudden surprise, okay? You are not looking down on your peers, you are simply too arrogant. You did not include the aliens, we thank you on behalf of the aliens. Human history has already knelt down, so what's there to trap? I've seen arrogant people, but I've never seen someone as arrogant as you. This is not just going up to the heavens, it's going to break through the dimensional barrier. Bro, don't be like that. Everyone knows you are Jin Shiyue's boyfriend. We just want a bit of explosive news, but if it's too explosive, we won't be able to enjoy it, okay? Throughout their long careers, this was the first time in the reporters' long careers that they felt the interviewee's information was too explosive. For a moment, many of the reporters could not help but feel awkward. *CK, they actually made it so that they could not ask any more questions. Seeing that the reporters were stunned, Liang Fatsai quickly grabbed the microphone and forced a smile. Mr. Chen was just joking. Please don't take it seriously. Everyone felt like they were letting out a long sigh of relief. The Central TV Department 5 reporter squeezed out a smile and said, Mr. Chen Guang sure knows how to joke. He has such a sense of humor. Everyone was thinking that whether it was this Chairman Liang or his old colleagues from Central TV, they were both very quick-witted and knew how to save the situation. Old Ginger was spicier than young Ginger. As long as Chen Guang followed along with his Central TV colleagues' words, everyone would be able to write the rest of the script. All-around Superman, superb skills, humorous and witty. Otherwise, he could put up a fake title, first using his arrogance to attract attention, and then use his sense of humor to wash it away. Everyone was happy with such an ending. Chen Guang smiled and snatched the microphone back from Liang Fatsai's hand. Then he smiled coolly and said, No, I'm not joking. I'm serious. Come at me again. That's enough. Liang Fatsai finally couldn't sit still anymore. He got up abruptly and pulled Chen Guang out. He turned around and said to the reporters awkwardly, That's all for today's post-match press conference. Everyone go back. Chen Guang broke free from Liang Fatsai's grip and stared at him unhappily. Everyone, remember to report the truth when you go back. Just write whatever I say. Don't be afraid of causing me any trouble, because I'm telling the truth. Big bro, I'm begging you. Don't say any more. Let's go, let's go. Liang Fatsai put on a long face and pushed him away desperately. Chen Guang saw that he was really pitiful, so he didn't make things difficult for him and followed him to the backstage of the press conference. Big bro, something's going to happen if you say that. Liang Fatsai said anxiously when there was no one around. Chen Guang threw up his hands. What's going to happen? Liang Fatsai said, It's going to. Halfway through his sentence, he couldn't continue because he really didn't know what could happen. He just subconsciously felt that Chen Guang's words today were different from his impression of a sports star. Initially, old Liang thought that it was inappropriate for veteran athletes like Chu Hao and Chen Xiaoxin to publicly question Chen Guang on Weibo. Only today did he understand that compared to Chen Guang, those people were as docile as lambs. However, Chen Guang couldn't possibly tell him everything. He only patted the pitiful old Liang on the shoulder. President Liang, don't worry. The sky won't fall. But if you say that, you'll be hated by everyone in the industry. Our domestic athletes might not say anything, but it won't be good internationally. Liang Fatsai finally found an appropriate way to put it. Don't worry. If anyone can't stand me, they can just beat me. It's useless to say it aloud. It's a competition after all. It's all about the real deal. All right, everyone is flying to Beijing tomorrow, right? Remember to help me buy a ticket. My assistant's ticket. Xen Qin interrupted. There's no need. I've already bought my own ticket. Then what about the seats? Qin Guang asked. Xianxia waved her hand indifferently. Buy whatever you want. I'll definitely sit next to you anyway. Watching Qin Guang and Xianxia leave in full gear, Liang Fatsai couldn't say a word for a long time. He was defeated by Qin Guang's shamelessness. What do you mean by saying it's useless to say it aloud? You're the best talker in the world. How dare you say such things? You were too arrogant just now, Xianxia said with a slight frown after the two of them left. How is this arrogance? I'm just stating the facts and being reasonable. Qin Guang laughed and played Tai Chi with her. He took a sip of water, started the car, and left. Today, he won the preliminaries. However, the number of faith points produced by the dart idol had increased by a total of 300 points, reaching a total of nearly 8,500 points. In less than 4 days, he had spent all the faith points of all the dart enthusiasts in the country, including those who might be converted from ordinary fans to dart enthusiasts. When the two of them returned home, Xianxia took over Qin Guang's computer. It turned out that not only had she been helping with the live broadcast, but she had also secretly recorded the live broadcast of the competition on the Dachuan TV station sports channel and Qin Guang's live broadcast. She planned to make a staged documentary about Qin Guang's victory in the preliminaries and post it on the internet. I have a question, Xianxia. Speak. Xianxia stared at the computer intently. Did you owe me a lot of money in your previous life? Aren't you being too nice to me? Xianxia didn't stop working. She only glanced at Qin Guang from the corner of her eyes. It has nothing to do with you. I just want to use you to make more people like Dart, my master. She stopped halfway through her sentence. Qin Guang still wanted to ask, but he saw a cold light emitting from her palm. She was taking out a weapon again. The computer was taken over by someone else, so Qin Guang had nothing to do again. As the saying goes, it's easier to invite a god in than to send him away. He didn't know how long Xianxia would stay in his house, so he might as well buy another computer. So, he said goodbye to Xianxia, then drove the phaeton alone to the computer city near the school. The most expensive graphics card, the most expensive CPU, give me all of them. With this style, Qin Guang swept out a 30,000 renminbi machine from the computer city, and then rushed back excitedly. Halfway through the car, he received a call from Jiang Yache. If it was in the past, he would try not to accept it if he could. But now, he owed too many favors. Whether he was happy or not, he still had to give her face. In addition, although he didn't want to admit it, even if he knew it was poison, Qin Guang couldn't bear to part with the various benefits that Jiang Yache sent through WeChat. I'm a layman. Let me take another breath. Really, just one breath is enough. You will arrive in Beijing tomorrow, right? As soon as the phone was connected, Jiang Yache's cheerful voice jumped out from the phone. Qin Guang struggled to restrain his impulse to flirt. The other side was a firecracker. He couldn't give her any sparks. Otherwise, it would explode. Jiang Yache smiled. Dear brother Guang, I looked at your schedule. Your game will end next Wednesday. That night, Shiyue and I will be holding a concert. Come and support us. At the same time, we can go through a script. It's the script for women. This isn't too good, right? Recently, the matter between me and Jean Shiyue has spread so much on the internet. If I come to your concert, what if someone sees us? Won't it cause a huge uproar? Jiang Yache laughed. You've already made your relationship public. Why are you still hiding it? Your girlfriend is holding a concert. As her boyfriend, shouldn't you be a guest? But I'm a fake. Qin Guang didn't give up. Jiang Yache insisted. But others don't see it that way. The whole country knows about it. If they wanted to cause a huge uproar, they would have done so long ago. Now everyone knows that we sisters will be holding a concert in a few days. You're also participating in that competition in Beijing. If you don't show your face, people will be suspicious. Don't you see the news on the internet about celebrities having bad relationships and unstable families? Faced with Jiang Yache's words, Qin Guang was speechless. All right. I'll do it, okay? After hanging up, he didn't know whether he should be happy or feel sorry for himself. His relationship with Jin Shirue was as pure as a piece of white paper. His relationship with Jiang Yage was a little insignificant because he was obsessed with some of her photos that couldn't be seen. But Jiang Yage used Jin Shirue as an excuse to force him to watch the concert. Thinking about it carefully, why was his relationship so messy? It was almost 9 o'clock in the evening. Chen Guang was waiting in front of the TV on time, waiting for tonight's sports news. Brother's declaration of victory must be left for me. Before this, the matter of him talking nonsense at the post-match press conference had already caused a huge uproar on the domestic internet. In the vast country of China, for 5,000 years, all the dynasties had taken modesty and prudence as a virtue. Even if in recent years, due to the cultural exchange between China and the West, people's ideology had gradually changed and the acceptance rate had increased, but the general values in the country's culture had not changed much. For example, other celebrities, no matter how arrogant they were in private or how much they liked to act like they would basically do their best to maintain their image in public. You can be a maverick, but you have to have a limit. You can despise authority, but you have to learn humility. You can be arrogant and indulgent, but you have to have a limit. Chapter 486. No one would ever say that they were the strongest in history when they were interviewed in public places. How many years of human history? How many strange people and things had happened? For example, something as simple as throwing darts. In ancient times, there were many historical figures or legends who left their names in history books. The disciples of Lord Mengchang's sect, or Zhang Qing without the featherstone and water margin, were all legendary figures in the throwing trade. Others had been dead for thousands or hundreds of years. Even if the skills you displayed were indeed amazing, what right do you have to boast that you were the strongest in history? The strongest in history? What a joke! Furthermore, there were also Li Xuanhuan, the Ice Soul Silver Needle Li Macho, and Li Xiaoyao from the novels. They were all famous in the industry. Your surname was neither Li nor Tang. What right do you have to boast that you were the strongest in the throwing industry? If a nameless person said this in public, others might think that he was crazy. However, you were Qin Guang, a famous figure, a super internet celebrity, and also Jin Shirue's boyfriend. How could you lie with your eyes open? What right do you have to be so arrogant? What right do you have to be so high profile? I don't think he is the strongest in history. He is the highest profile in history. A retired senior in the sports world said, "Clown, sensationalist, the shame of China. If all the young people nowadays are like him, our country will not be a country in the long run." This was the evaluation of an old professor from Yenjing University. People should know how to respect their seniors. No matter how great their achievements are, they should at least respect others. This young man's character is very problematic. I don't know much about sports, but I think this young man should learn more about how to conduct himself. This was the evaluation of an old senior in the domestic economics world. Gokyo University has indeed had a problem in recent years. Is this the kind of student they teach? Another old scholar in the field of economics said, Chen Guang did not comment on these people's evaluation. Anyway, I won't lose a piece of meat if you scold me. I won't give you any faith points even if I scold you. However, he also took note of these people in his heart. Most of the people who spoke harshly were old economists in the country. It was obvious that these people had been waiting for such an opportunity to jump out and vent their cravings. Chen Guang had toppled Su Lijing. No matter what his motive was, whether Su Lijing deserved it or not, it was obvious that he had offended everyone in this circle. If he shrunk his neck and lived a simple life, these old friends of Su Lijing might not be able to do anything to him. But now that he had become a celebrity and began to appear in the public eye, these authoritative old gentlemen had something to say. They might not really be able to do anything to him, but it was perfectly reasonable for them to point out his flaws and teach him a lesson as a senior to disgust him. Since the old economists were on fire, some entrepreneurs with a lot of influence on the internet followed. As a beverage tycoon in the country, the chairman of Latte Beverage, Lu Jingchun, who had over 7 million followers on Weibo, made a public statement. Initially, The company was discussing the spokesperson for the new sports drink, and Chen Guang was one of our candidates. However, I've removed his name from the list. We can't tolerate such obvious flaws in the spokesperson's personality. Based on past experience, latte beverages endorsement fee was at least 6 to 7 million a year. Liu Jingquan's Weibo post was equivalent to Chen Guang losing a few million. The onlookers who were watching the commotion felt that it was interesting. They all went to Chen Guang's Weibo and commented on his arrogance. After Liu Jingquan took the lead, 7 or 8 other well-known entrepreneurs expressed their views. Even if they had not considered this matter at all, it was not a problem for them to follow the trend and make their presence known. Chen Guang never expected that the matter would blow up so much, which made him furious. F***K your spokesperson? You guys didn't even contact me, alright? Are you trying to mess with me with a picture that I haven't even seen? Do you think I am easy to bully? If I don't fight back, I will be going against my conscience. Otherwise, people will really treat me as a joke. Chen Guang had not even made a move yet, but his fans could not hold back. As the saying goes, one is marked by the company one keeps. Based on Chen Guang's character so far, those who could still be his fanatical fans with a clear conscience were not good people. They were all very good at fighting free of charge, and had a strong desire to fight. They never got tired of it. Don't talk about your lousy drink. I was only 18 yesterday, and I only took a sip. Today is my 80th birthday. Black ham sausage, 50% pork essence. Overbearing shampoo, hair loss is super overbearing. Ever since I used the Anrex men's facial cleanser, I have been single for 12 years. All the entrepreneurs who followed the trend of defaming Chen Guang on the internet had similar comments under their Weibo. The comments under those old economists were even worse. It was said that Su Lijing's old classmate had been rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment of a heart attack. Before entering the operating room, the old gentleman stretched out his trembling hand and shouted hoarsely, "Turn off the comments." Seeing that everyone was so supportive, Chen Guang was too lazy to go to other people's Weibo to reply. After thinking about it, he wrote this on his Weibo. The world laughs at me for being too crazy, and I laugh at them for not seeing through me. 6 days later, next Wednesday, I will tell you with hard facts that I am the best in history when it comes to throwing darts. Today, you can ignore me, but tomorrow I will be out of your league. In addition, some people said they wanted me to be their spokesperson. Are you kidding me? Isn't it embarrassing? Recently, I also planned to invest a few billion in each of your companies for free. But when I was taking a dump just now, I farted and it was too smelly. It made me unhappy, so I won't give it to you. Each of your companies will lose a few billion, okay? As soon as Chen Guang said this, those fanatical fans who were originally helping him to fight on Weibo and other forums all laughed until their stomachs hurt. Losing a few billion with a fart, was there anything more tragic in the world than this? He was using a different way of saying that the company's bosses were blindly following the trend and using some random reason to disgust him. Thinking about it carefully, losing a few billion with a fart was even worse. At this time, the Anti-Light Alliance appeared out of nowhere. The president of the Anti-Light Alliance, who had his head shaved yesterday, stood up. First, he took a selfie, then he wrote, "Chen Guang is really a terrible person. I looked at him too much yesterday, and he asked his bodyguard to shave my head bald. This is too much. I am here to call on everyone to join the Anti-Light Alliance. Come fight with us. The Anti-Light Alliance needs your strength." Then this guy even Chen Guang. It just so happened that Chen Guang was browsing Weibo. Chen Guang was truly dedicated to his work. It had only been a day, and Chen Guang had actually waxed his bald head, making it look glossy and charming. Chen Guang reckoned that Chen Guang wouldn't be able to grow his hair back for another year or so. Seeing that he was shouting so enthusiastically, Chen Guang got excited and decisively reposted it with a caption, "This is my first fan club. I'm happy. Those who have nothing better to do can consider joining." I've seen this baldy before. Other than being especially greedy and lecherous, he doesn't seem to have any other flaws. In short, I'll just say 2 things. Everyone, don't pay. Female fans, please don't join. In less than 2 minutes, the bald-headed man began to shout on Weibo, "I've said it 10,000 times. We are the Anti-Light Alliance. Anti-Light. And Chen Guang." It wasn't his fan club. That's enough. Chen Guang expressed his sympathy for him. He didn't know how much popularity his wave of reposts could help the Anti-Light Alliance, and he didn't know how long the baldy could last under the continuous influx of his fans. Unlike the last time when he was unanimously condemned by the people in the circle, the domestic darts players didn't have any objections this time. Chu Hao and Hua Ming didn't say anything, but Chen Xiaoxin, Lian Yu, and a few other well-known players clearly stood up to support Chen Guang. Chen Xiaoxin's words were the most representative. Seeing is believing. Even if you watch it on TV, it's far less impressive than witnessing a miracle in person. Some people criticize our peers without any verification. I only have one thing to say. Outsiders shouldn't judge professionals carelessly. It's easy to make a fool of yourself. Lian Yu said, "It's hard to comment on the things of the ancients, but as far as I can remember, no professional darts player can be compared to Chen Guang." Many old vice presidents of the Escort Association also chose to stand up to support Chen Guang. Instead of being dissatisfied with Chen Guang because of his arrogant words, these heavyweights in the industry worked together to support him, which suddenly turned the tide on the internet. After reading the support of his colleagues in the escort industry, Chen Guang randomly picked 2 familiar replies and thanked them. Then he didn't pay much attention to the storm on the internet. "I've always been generous and won't argue with villains. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't feel. Anyway, they didn't win against me." At 9 o'clock sharp, the evening sports news was broadcast on time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the evening sports news. This morning, the preliminary stage of the National Amateur Darts Championship has come to a successful end. 8 excellent amateur players have been selected from the 5 major divisions. They will participate in the finals to be held in Yanjing the day after tomorrow to compete for the final championship. In this National Amateur Darts Championship, many excellent amateur players have emerged and injected new blood into the darts game in our country. The overall champion of this competition will be qualified to participate in the World Darts Championship to be held in our country. This is the first time our country has hosted this top-level competition. I hope our players can take advantage of the home court's prestige and achieve good results. Next, please watch the competition briefing. The amateur darts competition, which no one cared about, was miraculously given more than 3 minutes of broadcast time on the evening news program of Central TV's Department 5. No one knew if the people of Central TV had brain cramps or if there was something wrong with them. When his bold words of, "I'm the strongest in human history," were released in their original form, Chen Guang snapped his fingers in satisfaction. This was what he wanted. Xen Qin, who was next to him, glared at him and said, "Childish." Chen Guang chose to ignore her. He only thought in his heart, "I'm a great man and I won't hold it against you. How can an ordinary person like you understand the pursuit of the old man, the owner of the Holy Grail?" Along with this piece of news, Chen Guang's name had spread throughout the country. The number of fans on his Weibo account was the first to explode. In an instant, it exceeded 11 million. Next was the production of Faith Points. Chapter 487. The influence of Central TV Department 5 was really explosive. The Dart God statue that was about to reach its peak actually increased by a few hundred points overnight, surpassing the 9,000 mark. This was not the most impressive thing. The other 4 God statues, including Otto's God statue, had also increased in strength. On average, each God statue increased by about 10%. Among them, the God statue with the most significant increase had even increased by 20%, reaching 12,000 a day. The total production of the 5 God statues reached 48,000 a day, closing in on the 50,000 mark. Obviously, as his fame grew, more and more people knew of him, and a new source of faith appeared. That was, those who had no interest or special hobbies after finding out about him first, would go online to find information related to him, and then take the initiative to come into contact with his achievements in car racing, piano, pencil sharpening, and Dota towers. Young people, those who liked esports, did not like Dota towers in the past, but after watching his videos, their interest expanded, and it became a new source of faith. The middle-aged people who had already entered the age of 20, after watching his car racing videos, recalled the days when they were young, riding motorcycles or driving cars with a group of like-minded friends, speeding along the mountain roads as fast as lightning. There were also such situations where fans who originally only knew about him stopped at his darts and Dota towers. When they looked back at his information and found his godly piano skills, they would worship him for other skills. It was also possible for one person to provide multiple shares of faith. His total reserve of faith had reached 330,000, and he was getting closer to the 600,000 required for the special training promised to Lin. At noon the next day, when the plane landed, Xianxia ran away and suddenly disappeared. No one knew where she went, and she did not say when she would be back. Chen Guang heaved a sigh of relief, but also felt a little reluctant. The 40 contestants who came from all over the country to participate in the finals were arranged to stay in a 3-star hotel in the suburbs of Beijing, almost all of them outside the 8th Ring Road. The staff of the escort association here said that it was close to the competition venue, and it was convenient to go to the competition. Everyone was also in tears. If they're poor, just say so. It's not like this is the first time we found out that the escort association is poor. The escort association didn't have much to do in the afternoon, so the contestants were allowed to rest in the hotel. Chen Guang had planned to use this time to interact with his fans, but every time he was about to start work, someone would knock on his door. Players from all over the country were really curious about this god of darts who had appeared out of nowhere. They could always find all kinds of reasons to chat with him. Otherwise, they would say that they were paying him a visit, but in reality, they were just curious. There were also a few old leaders of the Armed Escort Association who were said to be the closest to the mysterious president, the legendary vice president. In the end, this bunch of scammers didn't even know what the president of the Escort Association looked like. Chen Guang finally understood what Liang Fatsai had said before. This unlucky chief of the Escort Association must be the #1 lazy bum in the world. He was very angry that he had been disturbed all this time. Of course, the entire afternoon wasn't without a happy incident. Some of the female contestants from other provinces really needed to improve on their personal culture, so they started taking off their clothes the moment they entered the room. After enjoying a few seconds of free dancing, the righteous young man, Chen Guang, decided to slam the door and run away. "Little Lin, I'm at the Lofu Hotel in Yanshan District. Come and save me. Otherwise, you'll have to collect my corpse." Chen Guang called Lin Jingwei. Lin Jingwei was shocked. "What? Who can touch you under the emperor's nose? Wait for me, I'll come and save you." "Wait, what's going on?" "I'm dying of boredom." Scram. 15 minutes later, Lin Jingwei miraculously appeared in front of Chen Guang. He was driving a domestic car worth over 100,000, and Gaoya was sitting in the car. It turned out that Lin Jingwei's house was really close. "I say, are the two of you going to be tied together? I'm doing this all of a sudden, and the two of you are going to be together?" Chen Guang sat in the back seat and teased. Gaoya blushed at his words and punched Lin Jingwei. "It's all his fault. Why did I have to come and help him choose his clothes? So annoying." Gaoya seemed to be blaming him, but she was actually showing off sweetly. "Don't be like that. Showing off your love will shorten your life." Chen Guang hadn't been to Beijing before, and since it was rare for him to come, the three of them decided to take advantage of the afternoon to have a good time. Before they left, Chen Guang pulled Lin Jingwei aside and asked him a few questions. "All right, I have something to ask you. One said that her house is near Beijing, but when I asked her where exactly, she wouldn't tell me. She only told me that there's a weird-looking mountain near her house, and there seems to be a Confucian temple on it. Do you know where it is?" Chen Guang asked. Lin Jingwei frowned and thought for a long time. He shook his head like a rattle drum. "I don't know. I've been thinking for a long time, but there's no such place in Beijing." Gao Ye, who was sitting in the car, saw the two of them whispering to each other. She yelled, "What are the two of you discussing so sneakily?" Lin Jingwei chuckled. Nothing, nothing. Gao Ye waved her fist at Lin Jingwei, then said to Chen Guang, "Oh right, Chen Guang, do you want to go to Right Hand's concert in a few days? Little Lin and I fought for a long time to get 3 tickets, but my high school classmate can't go because of something. You should come too, or else the tickets will be wasted." Chen Guang decisively refused. "No." Gao Ye and Lin Jingwei asked in unison. The old man has a lot of things to deal with every day, and he spends hundreds of thousands of yuan every minute. How can he go to a concert? Isn't it a waste of precious time? Gao Ye looked at him suspiciously. "Don't tell me that you and Jin Shiyue are for real? Are you afraid that if I find out, I'll tell Xiaoxuan?" Chen Guang spat. "For real, my asteriskis? You two can go be lovey-dovey. I don't want to be a third wheel next to you. You want to hurt me with public displays of affection? Dream on. Of course I want to go. But I have to avoid you guys. I don't believe that you guys will bump into me at such a big concert." After returning to his hotel room, he turned on his computer and logged into QQ. Sun Xiaoxuan was online and had just sent him a message. Only then did Chen Guang realize that someone had edited his speech from yesterday's CCTV news and uploaded it to a foreign YouTube channel. Not only that, in the same video, this person had also combined XN Qin's video with the CCTV news. It had only been half a day since the video was uploaded to YouTube, but the number of views had already exceeded 1 million. It had caused a big impact abroad. Unlike China, where no one cared about darts, overseas, especially in England, darts was a very popular sport in bars. After watching the video with subtitles, many international friends turned up their noses at his speech and performance, which looked like special effects in the documentary. The most typical was what a top English professional player said: "In the world of darts, there has never been a place for the Chinese. In recent years, they have been eager to prove themselves in all fields, and now they have finally extended their dirty tentacles to darts." A black player from Africa said, "A cheater who uses computer special effects to make it onto China's TV news is really funny." A Native American contestant from the United States said, "I, Polycaca, have already arrived in Yenjing 2 days in advance. I strongly look forward to facing off against the strongest cheating contestant in human history. The World Championship referee will not allow contestants to use magnetic darts." These people's comments were all posted on Facebook or Twitter, so Chen Guang couldn't see them. However, Sun Xiaoxuan was overseas, so it was very convenient for her to log into these websites. At the same time, in order to strengthen her English, besides helping out in the lab, she browsed the web all day long. She could ask for information and practice her English. She saw all these news and was angry in her heart. These people are too much. After Sun Xiaoxuan sent the screenshot to Chen Guang, she added a QQ emoji with a red face. Chen Guang replied her very calmly, "A few days ago, those professional players in China also saw me like that, but now they see me as a god. I'm relieved that you don't take it to heart. Of course, we are the great China, and we have to have the demeanor of a big country. We can't be calculative with those barbarians. They only doubt us because they are ignorant. They will understand after the competition." Chen Guang added a smiley emoji. "Then I'm going to the lab. The teacher is rushing me. I've learned a lot of things recently, and I'm about to become a little genius in the lab. Let's go." After chatting with Sun Xiaoxuan for half an hour, she went to the lab. After closing the chat window, Chen Guang took a deep breath and said to himself, "I'm not angry. I'm really not angry. *CK. I'll ask how much this stupid Wrangler mouse costs later." Chen Guang thought to himself as he looked at the cracked mouse that had been crushed into pieces. Speaking of which, my 170 million in cash has already flown away for a long time. Why hasn't it popped up after so long? *CK. Lioli couldn't have been scammed, right? Then wouldn't this be the worst fraud case in history? It can't be, right? Thinking about it carefully, with her character of learning how to do business from watching TV series, the probability of this happening was slightly higher than the probability of a successful investment. He hurriedly picked up the cup and rushed into the glass world, intending to point at Lioli's nose and ask her clearly. His figure appeared out of thin air about 2 to 3 meters high in the center of Yunqing and then fell straight down. Relying on his amazing balance, he landed firmly on his feet. "Madame Lioli, what are you doing?" Strange, Lioli's expression doesn't seem right. Is she sick? Epilepsy? At this moment, Lioli's face was pale with fright. Her hands were trembling, pointing at him one moment, waving at the ground the next, and holding her head the next. Her mouth was wide open, and she wanted to scream but held it back. The gorgeous feather dress trembled crazily with her angry actions. She didn't know what had happened. Chen Guang shrank his neck. Could it be that something happened to the heavenly Holy Grail? Is the sky falling? Lioli finally calmed down and pointed at his feet with her teeth clenched. "Your feet. Take them away." Jumping back, Chen Guang exclaimed, "Why is there a flower here?" Chapter 488. At the place where he had just landed, there was a delicate flower lying under his right foot. No, this was definitely a delicate flower before, but now, the petals had all been trampled to pieces, and the branches had been broken into who knew how many sections. It was simply miserable. I'm going to kill you." A soundless roar of anger suddenly sounded from the bottom of Chen Guang's heart, filled with endless rage and irritation. Chen Guang was stunned. This voice was definitely not Lioli's, nor was it the electronic voice that came with the Holy Grail. "Io, little dear. Calm down. Calm down." Lioli moved forward, and with trembling hands, she picked up the flower that had fallen to the ground a little. With a crack under the watchful eyes of both Chen Guang and Lioli, this flower's branches were finally completely broken, leaving only a small stubble growing on the misty ground. That voice sounded again. "Io, big sister, it hurts. My waist is about to break." Chen Guang instantly understood. F***ck, there's a guest in my Holy Grail? It's this flower? No, it should be called flower mud now. And this waist of yours isn't about to break, it's already broken. Why didn't you guys say so earlier? It wasn't easy for me to come here, so you can't blame me for destroying this flower. This is just a not-so-beautiful coincidence. Oh my god. Lioli was so shocked that she called it a god. Chen Guang looked at her innocently. "I'm going to strangle you to death." Lioli pounced forward and grabbed his neck. "That's right, big sister, hurry up and strangle this scourge to death." The deer flower that only had one level of roots left could actually still speak. Chen Guang expressed his disbelief. "Impossible, I'm your only savior. What are you going to do if I die?" 15 minutes later. "Where is this puma? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Who is that person who's being strangled down there? Why does he look so familiar? F***ck me. I'm really going to be strangled to death." Chen Guang coughed. "Big sister, you're really something. You've really strangled me to death once. I've died once." Luli put her hands on her hips. "I can bring you back from the dead. Can't I?" "Lily, why don't you let him die? How heartbreaking. Look at how miserable I am now." Lu Minghua, who only had half a root stubble left, felt injustice for himself. Azure turned around and looked at the half of the flower on the ground. "Lu Ming, your incarnation has been destroyed, so it's best if you don't speak." "Alright, how unlucky." The voice replied, and the stubble on the ground slowly disappeared. "That?" Chen Guang asked. Lu Li knocked his head. "I won't die, but I'm in trouble because of you. The incarnation that I went through so much trouble has been stomped away by you. There's no telling when I'll be able to condense it again. So you're blaming me?" Chen Guang shrugged. Since he wouldn't die, there was nothing to worry about. He was beaten up by Lu Li again, and today's unlucky matter was finally over. In the end, Chen Guang still didn't understand why another guest had come to his cup. She seemed to be quite familiar with Lu Li, but when he asked her how she got here, Lu Li didn't say anything. After all this time, this trip was pretty much for nothing. He didn't dare to ask about the 170 million. In fact, Chen Guang had thought about it, but Lu Li ignored him, which meant that she didn't have the intention to say it. Before he was kicked out, he got some good news. Recently, his faith points were quite abundant. Lu Li seemed to have used up some of her faith points. She would definitely be out of the Skyline Cup's middle realm within a month. Alright, this was equivalent to not calculating at all. He always felt that Lu Li must have used her faith points to do something else, and casually found an excuse to fool him. This was called using public office for personal gain. When Chen Guang got out of the cup, the lustrous feather robe on Lu Li's body gradually shattered and dissipated, turning into specks of stars. Lu Li's face was livid. She put on the clothes that she had taken off one by one with great difficulty, but in the end, she had to break the lustrous feather robe and use it to protect Deer Cry's soul. After being kicked out of the cup's middle realm, Chen Guang was really bored. He simply looked at the script sent by Big Beard Deng on the computer in advance. This matter couldn't be avoided. At that time, whether or not he could make a performance in the cup's middle realm was another matter. First, he had to look at the content of this stupid script. After a long time, Chen Guang let out a long breath. He was scared to death. He thought that the second male lead would have a lot of scenes, but it wasn't so scary. According to the script, his scenes added up to less than 10 minutes. He would appear at the beginning, show his face at the end, and have some lines with the first female lead. That was it. The main scenes of this movie were focused on the first female lead. It was called The Woman. The main expression was the story of the first female lead's indomitable spirit in the face of difficulties and the brave struggle. Finally, she used the strength of a woman to save her drug addict childhood sweetheart. Chen Guang had to play the role of this drug addict. Thinking of Big Beard Deng's previous movie, Tears for a Kingdom, the main scenes were also focused on Jiang Ye's heroine and Jin Shiyue's official daughter. Chen Guang felt that although Big Beard looked like a man, he was actually a friend of women. He must be super afraid of his wife. He didn't remember any of the lines. After watching for a few hours, he only had a slight impression of the whole story. But obviously, although the second male lead didn't appear for a long time and didn't have many scenes, it was a test of acting skills. For a new actor, acting as himself was the easiest and most comfortable job. Chen Guang's assistant, who only lasted 30 seconds, might not even be considered as his debut on the big screen. This time he was serious. In the end, he had to take on such a difficult role right off the bat, a hysterical hedonist who still had a bit of conscience in his heart, a violent drug addict. Damn, whenever he thought of this character that was so complicated that he wanted to strangle the scriptwriter to death. Couldn't you have said a happy and funny college student? Then I don't need to learn acting at all. Forget it. I'll throw away the script and sleep. Tomorrow's national final? I won't even have to open my eyes to win. The next day, at 9 o'clock in the morning, the contestants took 2 buses to the competition venue. The national final of the China Amateur Darts Championship officially began. The standard of the finals was much higher than the regional finals. The competition venue was located in the Olympic Village. It was a medium-sized indoor sports hall that could accommodate 8,000 people. Originally, the escort agency was worried about the attendance. But with the big victory of the 5 capitals, the escort agency's confidence in the finals was greatly boosted. The results didn't disappoint them. Many people started lining up after 8 o'clock in the morning. The competition officially began at 10 o'clock. Before it was 9:30, there were at least 2,000 people lining up outside. The venue's layout was also very professional. The live broadcast team of Central TV Department 5 was much more professional than that of Dachuan Province. Whether it was manpower or equipment, they were much better. After the contestants arrived, they were led to their respective resting rooms by the tournament's organizing committee. The champions of each division's preliminaries received some special treatment. Each of them had their own private resting room. The other 4 regional champions were different from Chen Guang. Although they were amateur players, they were able to make it to the top in each of the major divisions. That meant that they had formal professional training. Some of the contestants were even accompanied by professional coaching teams. Unfortunately, everyone's fighting spirit wasn't very high at the moment. They all knew that unless Chen Guang's arm was broken, the outcome of the competition would be decided from the beginning. Chen Guang sat alone in the resting room. He watched the other contestants who had entered their resting rooms being surrounded by their coaching teams. They cheered them on and arranged all kinds of tactics. He was very envious of them. At this moment, a group of people rushed in from outside the door. It was very lively. Chen Guang stood up from his seat. "What are you doing?" "Oh, hello, Mr. Chen. We are the makeup team of Central TV's live broadcast team. We need to put on some makeup for you, Mr. Chen." Chen Guang spat. "I'm a 7-foot man. Why would I need to put on makeup? Why don't others put on makeup?" The middle-aged woman leading the team laughed. "That's different. We all know that you will definitely be the champion. The escort agency hopes that we can make the champion look more radiant." Chen Guang slammed the table angrily. "Ridiculous. I look like a radiant young man just by standing there. Do I even need to put on makeup? Besides, I'm also very handsome without makeup." The middle-aged woman leading the team only laughed and did not say anything. She took out her cell phone and showed a screenshot of Chen Guang's beautiful face during his live broadcast. "Please don't put on heavy makeup for me. Don't make me look too flirtatious. Just a little more normal will do." Chen Guang, who had the best looks in the darts world, admitted defeat. The Central TV program team was indeed professional. The makeup team did not really make Chen Guang look like a Korean-styled celebrity. After a short while, all they did was tidy up his hair, remove the eye wax that had not been washed off when he woke up in the morning, and apply some foundation on his face that was said to brighten up the room. Chen Guang touched his face and felt uncomfortable all over. He felt like he was going to have an allergic reaction. The makeup team had just turned around and left, but he had already scrubbed off a layer of his face. Only those who had put on makeup could understand the bliss of being barefaced. It was almost time for the contestants to enter the venue. Chen Guang took a sip of tea before he went out and started to worry. Ever since he got the heavenly holy grail, he had never let it out of his sight. This competition was very serious, and when the contestants entered the venue later, he could not possibly hold the cup in his hand, nor could he hide it, nor could he bring his backpack with him. He was feeling very anxious. At this moment, a familiar figure suddenly appeared at the door. Chen Guang stared and laughed. "Io, my little XNXN, you're finally back in time. Help me carry my bag and help me with the live broadcast." XN Chin walked up to him with a cold face. She first looked at his hair, then said, "If you call me little XN again, I'll shave your head. I'm a man of my word. Hand it over." "Hello, everyone. The first national finals of the China Amateur Darts Championship has officially begun. Let's invite all the contestants to enter the venue. The first to enter the venue is our Southwest Division's preliminary champion, Chen Guang. Although he has just made his debut in darts, he has already been recognized by many professional players in the country. Everyone calls him Mr. 9 Darts. This is because he has completed all his matches with 9 darts since he joined the official competition. Chapter 489. Thousands of kilometers away, in Lulai County of Duchuan Province, Chen Guoli was lying on the sofa and turning on the TV in boredom. Now that the 5 major European football leagues were on hiatus and the NBA finals were over, his work at the hot pot restaurant would have to wait until the afternoon. His mahjong game this morning had been stood up again, so Chen Guoli was so bored that he was covered in lice. His days were really unbearably idle. With the idea of making a Hail Mary, he switched the channel to Central TV Department 5. At least let me watch a billiards match. Then, old Chen saw the amateur darts tournament and saw Chen Guang, who was leading the way. He was chewing on melon seeds, but when he opened his mouth, it fell to the ground. "Honey, come and see God." "No, quickly come and see your son. What the hell is going on?" Feng Rong sat down and glanced at the TV. "That's impossible. When did our son learn this? There are so many people with the same name." Chen Guoli said firmly, "It's definitely our son. I saw someone just now." Feng Rong also saw him. "It really is little Guang. This competition looks quite lively. Will the food allowance of the participants be deducted? They don't have to pay for the competition, right?" Chen Guoli gave Feng Rong a thumbs up. "Our thinking circuits are not on the same wavelength." Chen Guang also heard the introduction of himself on the big broadcast from the stadium. He thought to himself that the host was really free. There were a total of 40 participants, and if he introduced everyone like this, he would probably be able to make it in time for breakfast tomorrow morning. Following behind him are the other 39 contestants. Damn it. If I remember correctly, I didn't bribe Central TV, did I? You guys are so close. There were a total of 40 participants in the finals. They would participate in 2 elimination rounds and be divided into 5 groups. Each group had 8 participants, and 5 would be eliminated. The remaining 15 participants would then be divided into 3 groups. Each group would have 5 participants to compete for the group champion, and the final 3 participants would compete for first, second, and third place. The duration of the competition was about 2.5 hours. The escort agency had cleverly arranged for Qin Guang to be in the 5th group so that the competition would not lose its suspense as soon as it began. The other contestants who were waiting to go on stage were so nervous that they did not know where to put their hands. Only Qin Guang, who had been sitting there since the beginning, felt particularly bored. He simply let Xen Qin hold his phone and interact with the bullet screen in his live broadcast room. Quite a few of the netizens in the bullet comments had switched on Qin Guang's live stream. At the same time, they were also watching Central TV Department 5's live stream. Watching both at the same time, it was a double camera experience for them to experience a brand new live stream of the sporting world. Qin Guang looked around the competition venue, picking out interesting things to chat about in the live broadcast room. Qin Guang pointed the camera at the stands not far away and said, "Do you see the beauties over there? They're so beautiful. I bet 100 yuan that Central TV's director will definitely cut the camera to her." Quite a number of people in the live comments were stunned. This was because Central TV Department 5 had taken a good look at this beauty for a few seconds. The bullet screen was filled with 6,666 comments, and then he easily got a lot of gifts. See, as long as you treat others with sincerity, they will teach you everything they know. Up until now, Qin Guang's followers in his live broadcast room had already exceeded the 2 million mark. It was different from other hosts who might have millions of followers on the surface, but who knew how many of them were actually living people. Qin Guang's 2 million plus followers were not necessarily his own people. They could also be haters. But the only thing he could guarantee was that he had never made any zombie fans, nor had he asked Little Tsong to help him do it even once. The popularity of the live broadcast room was increasing, and the number of people online was increasing. The chaotic rhythm of the bullet screen was also getting more and more chaotic, and the number of software advertisements was also increasing. Up until now, Little Tsong had already appointed more than 2 moderators in Qin Guang's live broadcast room. Little Tsong had not only urged Qin Guang to appoint a few moderators for himself. On one hand, it would allow the rich viewers to have a greater sense of participation. On the other hand, Little Tsong expressed that he was too short on manpower. Now that the country's regulations were getting stricter, not every live broadcast room was as pure as Qin Guang's. The timeliness of a live broadcast was also too high. It was simply too exciting for a female host to suddenly appear, and the pressure on the moderators was also too great. As for Little Tsong's reasonable requests, Qin Guang would always agree to them quickly, but he would forget about them the next moment. Qin Guang sat in the waiting area for the contestants. The stadium was very big, and he could not be seen from every corner. But someone in the bullet screen reminded him of something. The group of foreigners sitting in the VIP area on the 2nd floor were not ordinary spectators, but professional players from all over the world. They were about to participate in the upcoming World Championship. Qin Guang got up slightly and stretched his neck to look at the 30 to 40 contestants from all over the world gathered together. There were all kinds of skin colors. Each and every one of them was commenting on the Chinese amateur players below them. From time to time, they would sneer, but there was no recognition in their eyes. "Old Liang, it seems like our international friends don't think highly of us?" Qin Guang said in a slightly displeased tone. "My overseas friends sent me what they said on Twitter. These guys are asking for a beating." Liang Fatsai, who was sitting in front of Qin Guang, was a little embarrassed. "There's nothing we can do about it. After all, our country has always been weak in the darts game. Our development is lagging behind, and we have never achieved any significant international reputation, nor have we had any players with dominating power emerge. Isn't that the result of the escort association's inaction? Xianxia, who was sitting beside him, could not help but ask. Liang Fatsai's face turned even redder. Yes, but it's different now. Don't we have you, Mr. Qin? In the past, they would never come to watch our Chinese amateur competitions. Don't be fooled by their harsh words. Aren't they here today because of you? They are also afraid of you. Chen Guang turned his head and said to his fans on the bullet screen, "Let me introduce everyone. This is the president of our Dechuan Province's Darts Association, Old Liang." Did everyone hear what Old Liang said? Brothers, give me more gifts and help me advertise. Fans, give me strength. Give me a hand and accompany me to the World Championship to show our country's might. Liang Fatsai covered his old face and thought to himself, young people these days really know how to have fun. On the other hand, Xianxia summed up Chen Guang's actions with a single word, childish. You're an underage washboard. How dare you call me childish? Chen Guang glared at Xianxia. Xianxia silently took out a sharp knife and hid it in her palm. How did you bring this guy in? The security check for the competition is too childish. Yes, that's right, I'm very childish. Chen Guang expressed that a wise man submits to circumstances. In the VIP stands, the American Indian player, Papalika, took out his cell phone and opened his Twitter app. I'm looking forward to seeing the amazing performance of the best darts player in human history. However, until now, I've only seen a group of amateurs performing like clowns. He pressed send with a teasing smile on his face. The Mauritian player, Helvide, who was sitting next to him, was scrolling through his cell phone when he saw Papalika's tweet. He looked up and smiled at him. Papalika, it's not good for you to say that. You shouldn't joke about skin color. Although I also think their performance is very clumsy. How can such soil breed good darts players? Papalika shrugged. Then I'll post another tweet to clarify that I'm not discriminating against yellow-skinned people. I'm also a brown person from Indiana. Mr. Helvide, you have dark skin too. The Spanish player, Walken, who was sitting next to them, suddenly leaned over and said in broken English, I'm so disappointed. Did the Wuxia people deliberately arrange for that braggart to be the last to disgust us? I have to send a tweet to despise the Wuxia people who boast about themselves. Don't worry, everyone. We're here to see Mr. Nine Darts. Miracles are worth waiting for. Bant Wilkins, who was sitting in the front row, gently fiddled with his long blonde hair and smiled. Wilkins, who was from England, was the player who had won the most honors ever since the darts competition was formalized. So far, he had won more than half of the more than 10 World Darts Championships. Even though he was almost 60 years old, he maintained his competitive form very well. He had easily won the last World Championship last year, and in the finals he had made a godly performance of 9 darts. Now, he was considered a heavyweight in the international darts world. Since Wilkins had spoken, the others couldn't say anything else. Mr. Wilkins is right. Many of the players sitting there nodded in agreement. However, we really shouldn't allow the Wuxia people to humiliate our sport. Wilkins smiled and also sent a tweet. Chen Guang didn't have time to look at the people in the stands pointing and gossiping. However, it didn't take long before the comments of the people in the comments section were redirected to him. Chen Guang was happily scrolling through the comments section, but when he saw the comments, he felt as if he had swallowed a fly. He stood up from the player waiting area and looked at the foreign pro players on the second floor. He ground his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Just then, Wilkins glanced over and smiled. Oh, Mr. Nine Darts is there. The other foreign players heard him and turned to look at Chen Guang. Old Liang, can I give them the middle finger? Chen Guang asked. Liang Fatsai quickly grabbed one of his hands, and Xianxia, who was beside him, silently grabbed his other hand. Liang Fatsai said anxiously, No, please don't. This international gesture is too bad. Unable to use gestures to communicate with the other party in a friendly manner, Chen Guang pursed his lips and sat down again. He thought to himself, F***C, just you wait for the old man. I'm not targeting anyone, but all of you here are my F*** king faith. What were you talking about just now? Xianxia vaguely heard something. Faith? Chen Guang waved his hand and smiled at Xianxia's head. Nothing. Finally, the first 4 groups of players were done, and it was Chen Guang's turn in the 5th group. Bang! The first dart hit the bullseye in the 50-point area, and he took first place. The huge stadium was filled with cheers. Nowadays, in the darts industry, Chen Guang's popularity in the country had almost reached its peak. Although what he said was indeed arrogant, at least no one could doubt him before he failed. Among the audience that day, at least a small half of them were his fans. It was only natural that his appearance would cause thunderous applause. Chen Guang stretched out his fingers and gestured a 9. His arm shot up into the sky. He wanted to use the most arrogant tone to tell everyone that he wanted to pass with 9 darts. Chapter 490. In the studio of Central TV Department 5's live broadcast program team, the country's most professional sports live broadcast program team was busy. Unlike the Dachuan Sports Channel, where Liang Fatsai could still visit from time to time, Central TV's live broadcast program team was not a place anyone could enter. The person in charge of the program team was giving out instructions at a very fast pace. The person who was originally arranged to be in charge of the live broadcast was not him, but another newcomer. But it was precisely because of the heaven-defying ratings of the Dachuan Sports Channel that the internal department of Central TV Department 5's attention to this live broadcast, which was originally arranged through connections, was raised to a whole new level. When Central TV first received the task from their superiors, they were extremely reluctant. In order to broadcast the Amateur Darts League, they even had to give up the live broadcast rights of the WRC World Rally, which they had already purchased. Although this was Central TV, they still had to care about the ratings and reputation. This was the political achievement of the leaders of the television station. Perhaps the evening news the day before yesterday had reported Chen Guang's high-profile interview without any deletions. This was the result of the internal discussion of the leaders of Central TV Department 5. The impact of creating a high-profile and arrogant athlete might not be good, but what if what he said was true? Then he was not arrogant, but honest. This was a man-made hot topic. It was popularity, and it was also viewership ratings. Although darts wasn't highly regarded in China, before Ding Junhui appeared, no one paid attention to snooker, right? If Chen Guang was really as good as he said, or if he was as strong as the domestic darts industry had always recognized, then why couldn't they promote him to be the king of darts? Extraordinary people did extraordinary things. Since ancient times, how many of the extraordinary people with extraordinary talents had kept a low profile? When Cao Cao was in dire straits, he was able to say words like, "Only the emperor and the ear," that looked down on the heroes of the world. Since Chen Guang had repeatedly proven his strength in the preliminaries, of course he could be even more arrogant. The person in charge of the live broadcast keenly caught Chen Guang raising his hand to the sky, and immediately shouted, "Camera 7. Zoom in from below, and do a close-up of 3, 7. Let's add to Chen Guang's reputation." The person in charge gave a series of instructions, and the audience in front of their televisions saw this scene. The camera started about 1 or 2 meters in front of Chen Guang, and began to pan up at a 45-degree angle. They saw Chen Guang standing in the center of the resplendent competition hall, and his image grew larger and larger. He pointed his right hand to the sky, and the lights in the stadium behind him were dazzling. His entire body seemed to be covered in a halo. What's going on? Little Guang seems to have suddenly become more handsome? Feng Rong didn't understand darts at all, and could only comment on Chen Guang's current appearance. Chen Guoli took a bite of melon seeds. That's for sure. Think about who his father is. How could he not be handsome? Even Chen Guang himself did not know that such a simple act of posturing had been meticulously arranged by the Central TV Department 5's person in charge to elevate his image to a whole new height. Xianxia, who was holding her cell phone and filming the live broadcast from afar, looked at the string of exclamation marks and all sorts of mushy flattery in the bullet screen. She could barely roll her eyes. But no matter how disgusting Xianxia was, no one could deny that from this moment onwards, with Central TV Department 5's coverage covering the entire country, he was no longer an internet celebrity who only existed on Weibo. Instead, he appeared in front of the eyes of the entire country with a domineering attitude. After he left the stage, Chen Guang took a sip of his saliva and suddenly felt elated. Posturing in a live broadcast clearly had a mysterious bonus. Just like that, he had gained a few hundred more faith points. Unfortunately, this kind of thing could not be repeated. There was a limit to posturing and he couldn't stop. Otherwise, he would be treated as a joke. Papalika spat. He's really embarrassing us professional darts players. Didn't he just score 50 points? Isn't that very common? What are these Chinese people cheering for? Which one of us can't do that? Wilkins coughed lightly. Papalika, you're too hot-tempered. This is his home ground. What's so strange about that? The Spaniard, Walken, gently stroked his carefully trimmed beard. This is their own competition. Let's just treat it as a crappy play. The referees of the World Championship won't let him tarnish the competition like that. This is called a mirage-like carnival in the desert, Wilkins commented. Papalika grinned. Well said, Mr. Wilkins. As expected of someone from Shakespeare's country. In this desert of darts, they're using cheating methods and even computer special effects to create a fake genius. Do the Chinese really want to prove themselves in this World Championship? Walken's face darkened. Then we have to be careful. Maybe they're trying to do something big while they're the host. Wilkins's expression didn't change. I will communicate with the World Darts Alliance in advance. We can't give them any chance to cheat. Truth be told, they had all seen Chen Guang's competition videos, but they didn't believe it from the bottom of their hearts. This was China, a barren land for darts. It wasn't impossible for a world-class genius to appear here. But the scenes in the videos were too ridiculous. This was a competition, not Hollywood. However, 15 minutes later, these international friends who were giving pointers were all speechless with their mouths agape. This was simply unimaginable. That's right, Chen Guang did what he said. Once again, he cleared the stage with 9 darts. Moreover, he didn't even stand in front of the line of darts. Instead, he stood 7 or 8 meters away and threw them casually. Are you messing with us? In the first round, Chen Guang crushed all his opponents without any suspense and advanced to the second round. Before he left the stage, he grinned at the stunned international friends from afar and raised his eyebrows to provoke them. Look at all of you with your mouths agape. Young lads, are you frogs in a well? The Central TV director was even more cunning than Chen Guang. He was able to capture the stunned looks of these world-class professional players and did a close-up on the television. Those who didn't know much about darts might not have understood. Just like Feng Rong said, "Why are you letting the foreigners in? Continue filming my son." But the darts enthusiasts who were watching the competition on their computers or in Chen Guang's live broadcast room were in an uproar. These snobbish foreigners are scared to death. Mr. Jin, who was watching TV in Wujing, laughed and slapped the table. He said to Xiaofang and the other girls at the front desk, "Did you see that guy with his mouth agape? His name is Papalika. That's him. A few years ago, I wanted to invite him to our club for an event. In fact, it was just to help us promote our club. Guess what he said? I gave him $20,000 for free, but he said he couldn't be bothered to waste his precious training time. He can even run $5,000 happily in the United States. Isn't that just looking down on others? Now he's dumbfounded and pissing his pants, right?" Xiaofang reminded him, "Boss, Mr. Chin is the best. Why are you so happy?" Mr. Jin said proudly, "Because Mr. Chin is our lifetime member." An hour later, it was the second round of the competition. Chen Guang passed with 9 darts again. Wilkins and the others could not sit still anymore. Ridiculous. That's impossible. This is shameful cheating. I'm going to complain to the World Escort Association. China should be disqualified from hosting this year's World Championship. If this person uses the same equipment in the World Championship, we have no chance of winning at all. They're going crazy thinking about winning the championship. This group of people was making a ruckus. Just like Qin Xiaoxin, who had seen this scene for the first time, they were unwilling to believe it even though they had seen it with their own eyes. It was just too bizarre. Wilkins stood up. I have to talk to the people from the Wuxia Escort Association. In order to defend this elegant gentleman's sport, I have to expose this farce. Let's go together. The others stood up one after another. Regardless of what these people thought, the fight for the first, second, and third place continued in full swing on the other side. There was still no suspense. Chen Guang did as he said and passed with 9 darts again. Congratulations to Chen Guang for winning the Wuxia Amateur Darts Championship. As the commentators shouted excitedly on the television, Chen Guang stood on the podium with 2 other people. The vice presidents of the Wuxia Escort Association, accompanied by the hostesses, stood in front of the podium with medals and flowers. Let us pass. Wilkins waved his arms angrily. Mr. Wilkins, I don't understand what you're trying to do. Old Zhao, the most senior member of the Wuxia Escort Association, was sweating profusely as he stood in front of this group of tall and strong foreigners. Your shameful behavior has damaged the fairness and justice of the dart sport. You're turning our profession into a farce. I demand that you stop this competition immediately and revoke that actor's championship. Wilkins roared as he pointed at Chen Guang, who was on the podium not far away. Xiao Hu, what did he say? Old Zhao couldn't understand what Wilkins was yelling about, so he asked the interpreter beside him. The interpreter, Xiao Hu, was rather embarrassed. Old Zhao was also a hot-tempered person. If he were to translate Wilkins' words, the old man would probably jump up and start a fight with him. Old Zhao, he's questioning the fairness of this competition and wants to revoke Chen Guang's championship, Xiao Hu said after some deliberation, ignoring the most unpleasant part of Wilkins' words. Even so, old Zhao was still angry. Isn't this nonsense? This is our own competition. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Chen Guang's equipment. We've checked it at least 3 times. Besides, didn't he use other people's darts to prove himself in the 5 capitals? Xiao Hu said helplessly, they didn't see it with their own eyes. I understand that word. This black guy is talking about Hollywood, right? They're saying that we're actors, right? Old Zhao waved his hand. Stop these people. At least before the live broadcast ends, don't let them disrupt the venue. This is China. This is our own competition. How can we tolerate these foreign devils telling us what to do? If you have any objections, then fight us fair and square in the World Championship. Now that we're treating you as guests, don't stay here and make trouble for us. Xiao Hu, translate what I said word for word. Old Zhao is right. This is China. Whether I cheated or not, you'll have to wait until the World Championships referees know how to judge. But for now, shut up. Unknowingly, Chen Guang had already walked over and spoke in fluent English. Chapter 491. The awards ceremony finally came to an end. Central TV Department 5's program team saw that the situation was not looking good and decisively cut off the signal. It could be considered a perfect ending to the live broadcast on television. However, Chen Guang's own live broadcast room was still open, and Xian Qin was still filming from the side. Many people in the live broadcast room who were watching from both sides suddenly perked up. Central TV Department 5's live broadcast had ended too quickly and abruptly, and they knew that there might be trouble at the venue. Fortunately, there was still Almighty Superman's live broadcast room to watch. Many people who were only watching TV turned around and saw a good show. The number of viewers in Chen Guang's live broadcast room rose rapidly. In just a few seconds, it went from 3 million to several 100,000 viewers. Brother Almighty is going to slap his international friends in the face. This bunch of monkeys, they think that we Chinese are easy to bully. They even want the 8-nation alliance to enter the capital? Did you guys understand what Brother Almighty said just now? My English didn't pass, but I really admire Brother Almighty's standard spoken English. Someone immediately translated Chen Guang's words in the bullet screen and added, Brother Almighty's English is much more authentic than the tapes in the 9-year compulsory education textbooks. On the other end, Wilkins and the others saw Chen Guang walking over and stopped fooling around. Instead, they pointed at Chen Guang's nose and said, "You shameful thief! You must let me check your equipment. Otherwise, we will get the World Darts Federation to disqualify you from the World Championship." The other foreign professional players were equally agitated. Elder Zhao was about to fly into a rage after listening to Xiaohu's helpless translation, but Chen Guang put his hand down and gestured to Elder Zhao not to act rashly. Immediately, he stood in front of Wilkins and looked at him indifferently, not caring that this person was currently the most respected professional darts player in the world. "Friend, you better understand one thing. We have our own judgment on whether it is fair or not. Now, please shut your mouth and go back to your hotel to rest. If you have any complaints about me, you can talk about it after you beat me in the World Championship. You want to disqualify me? With your baseless guesses and framing, you are not qualified enough." If it was another time, another place, and another group of people questioned him, he might choose to use someone else's darts to perform the godly skill again on the spot, making these people despair. But now, Chen Guang did not intend to do so. If he did so on the spot, he would be bowing to the unreasonable foreigners. They were not only insulting Chen Guang, but the entire country. The best way to shut them up was to go to the World Championship and tear their last bit of dignity to shreds. As for now, he would just ignore their requests and let them stay where they were. He had to let them understand whose territory they were standing on. The current Huaxia was not a weak country that could be easily bullied. They might feel aggrieved and angry, but wasn't this just right? Wilkins blushed when he saw that he could not do anything, but there was nothing he could do, because what Chen Guang had said was the truth. The foreign professional players could only glare at Chen Guang fiercely before turning around to leave. Walken turned his face away and muttered something. Chen Guang subconsciously felt that this guy's words were definitely not pleasant to hear, but he actually could not understand it. Papalika also pointed at Chen Guang and mimicked Walken's tone. His pronunciation was a little strange, and Chen Guang could not understand what he was saying. The black player from Mauritius, Helvede, was also muttering something. It was another language that he had never learned before. The group of people walked out noisily, stopping every 2 steps and looking back at Chen Guang as they muttered something. Looking at their expressions, he knew that it was definitely not something good. F***CK, what are you guys talking about? Ever since he entered the Sea of Moments and became the King of English, Chen Guang had not experienced the feeling of not understanding what his international friends were saying in a long time. He turned around and looked at Xiaohu. What are they talking about? Xiaohu also had a bitter look on his face. I don't know either, but it's not English. **CK. Where are these bastards from? Are they cursing without speaking English? Chen Guang's face darkened. Helvede, what did you just say? Walken poked the black man's waist proudly. The black man, Helvede, smiled. Only 50,000 people in the world can understand the dialect of my African ancestral tribe. What about you? Walken chuckled. The dialect of our Catalan autonomous region, Tarragona, is a Spanish dialect that only a few 100,000 people can understand. You are insulting our players. We will lodge a protest with the International Darts Federation. The two of them spoke in English, and the staff at the side protested. Walken raised an eyebrow. How did you know that I was cursing? I was using my native language to praise your players for their noble character and superb skills. In the distance, Chen Guang was furious. He gulped down a mouthful of water. F***CK, I really want to strangle these pretentious bastards. At that moment, Lioli's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Let me tell you a piece of good news. There are signs of your first one-line Heavenly Cup realm. From now on, it could appear at any time in the next 24 hours. Chen Guang didn't think much of it. He only nodded slightly to indicate that he understood. When he got back, he would grab the movie script and the acting materials that Lin Jingwei had brought him to the bookstore yesterday and crazily study them. He just needed to focus on his acting skills for this one-line Heavenly Cup realm. Anyway, there were still 24 hours left. There was no need to worry about it now. He gulped down another mouthful of water and cursed in his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that the old man doesn't understand your stupid native language, I would definitely strangle all of you to death. At that moment, he realized that something was wrong. That familiar feeling came so suddenly and without any warning. F***CK. Sister Lioli, didn't you say 24 hours? Chen Guang was about to cry. The 24 hours you mentioned was a little too F***king short. Wasn't your 1 day's notice a little too short? The difference between before and after was less than 3 seconds. Your family's 24 hours are 3 seconds long. Yes, that's right. His first one-line heavenly cup realm came without saying a word. Looking at Chen Guang sprawled out in front of her, Lioli, who had just hurriedly used the clouds to cover her body parts that weren't suitable for children, was also speechless. What I said just now was that within 24 hours, it could happen at any time. So, 3 seconds counts as within 24 hours? Chen Guang asked. Lioli nodded. Strictly speaking, that's not wrong. Thank you, Chen Guang said through gritted teeth. Lioli was at a loss. Thank you for what? Chen Guang said again. Thank you for refreshing my outlook on life once again. You made me understand that there is no lower limit for deceiving people. Lioli was about to punch him again. Do you think I want to do this? Chen Guang was already prepared. He nimbly rolled to the side and spat at her. Passing through the white mist, he pounced on her covered waist and abdomen, somewhere between her legs. Her white mist could only block her vision, but it couldn't block certain things. With a faint smack, it hit the bullseye. Time stagnated at this moment. Lioli was stunned for a moment, then her face turned red, and then turned blue. F***CK, I want to strangle you again. Chen Guang got up and ran into the distance. Let's talk nicely, Madame Lioli. Lioli turned into an evil ghost and pounced forward. I can't talk anymore. Today either you die or I die. She failed to catch up with Chen Guang in the end. The space channel of the world in the cup appeared in time and sucked Chen Guang in. Lying in the colorful space channel, Chen Guang patted his chest. Damn it. That was so scary. Thankfully, the old man reacted fast, or I would have died again. That spit just now was too wretched. It was definitely not me. Passing through the space channel that looked like a long corridor, Chen Guang landed on the solid soil with a thud. Slightly opening his eyes, he looked at the red sun with a milky outline in the sky and the crescent moon that was moving slowly on the other side of the sky. Sniffing again, the air was filled with a familiar yet strange smell of dampness. He slightly tilted his head to both sides. This was a long, narrow, and dirty tunnel that was full of cobwebs and mud. Chen Guang slowly straightened his body and walked to the end of the tunnel. Craning his head out, he looked at the dilapidated but prosperous dock not far away. Feeling the slight shaking of the soil below him, an idea was brewing crazily in his heart. Hey, buddy, why are you dressed so strangely? Is there anything that I, Old Bob, can do for you? On this treasure island, there is nothing that I, Old Bob, can't do as long as you have gold coins. Just when he was in a daze, a tattered old face full of wrinkles suddenly appeared in front of him. This old man who called himself Old Bob, wearing a tattered gray linen shirt, was talking to him while tidying up his messy and muddy bird's nest hair. Chen Guang keenly saw that the old man's hand that was hidden at his waist was actually holding an oily dagger. The empty chip on the handle of the dagger seemed to be telling him that there used to be a bright gem here, but now it might have been replaced with wine. Finally, Chen Guang grinned. He ignored Old Bob and laughed crazily with an unbridled and arrogant voice. Haha, Treasure Island. Is this the legendary trading island, Treasure Island? Ha, I'm going back to the Sea of Time. This is the F***king Sea of Time. He couldn't tell what he was feeling in his heart, but he felt familiar and excited at the same time. He never thought that the first realm within the Silver Line Cup would give him such a big surprise. When he left this place, he had thought that he would return one day. He thought that he would have to wait until he became the true master of the Holy Grail before he could freely travel between the real world and the Sea of Time. He never thought that there would be a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. The Silver Line Cup had sent him back. I, Hu Hansen, am back again. The second officer of the N Royal. The strongest battle maniac, right Qin? I'm back again. Chen Guang's body trembled uncontrollably. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. The opening this time was much better than the last time they met, where he had been beheaded. Who cares what kind of test it is, let's return to the Immortal first. Old Bob thought that he was a lunatic and was planning to take advantage of his madness to secretly take out a dagger and stab his stomach. After all, the quality of his strange clothes seemed to be quite good. Just the cloth alone could probably be exchanged for 3 ounces of rum. However, before he could take out his dagger, he was stunned when he heard the name of the Immortal. Chapter 492. Hey, omnipotent old Bob, get me a ship. I have to return to the Anne. Don't be afraid. As long as you do it, Kimberly will have it. We people on the Anne always do what we say. Poor old Bob was pulled by the neck into the alley by Chen Guang. Is there lard hanging around your neck? Chen Guang's hands were covered in grease after pulling the guy's collar for a short while. Then he cursed and wiped his hands on old Bob's clothes, trying to wipe the grease back. In the end, there was more and more grease on his hands. Old Bob was on the verge of tears. Mr. Wright, I'm covered in grease, but it's not my fault. I didn't mean to dirty your hands. Please don't kill me. As he spoke, old Bob's legs trembled uncontrollably, as though he had suffered a great shock. Chen Guang was rather puzzled by old Bob's reaction. He and the Immortal had swept through the Jade Sea in half a year, catching up from behind and becoming the overlord of the Jade Sea, becoming one of the top 10,000 powerful pirate crews in the Transient Sea. Although they were somewhat famous in the Western Sea, there was no reason for them to be so terrifying on the legendary Treasure Island. As far as he knew, the Treasure Island should be located in the Central Sea of the Transient Sea. This wasn't the Immortal's range of activity. Why was this old man so scared when he heard the name of the Immortal? When did I become so awesome? Could it be that after I left, someone made the story of the old man into a legend, spreading it from the Western Sea to the Central Sea like the legends of the Transient Sea for countless years? The Transient Sea, which was said to be boundless, was actually bordered by the walls of the transcendent Holy Grail. Apart from the endless seawater, there were also countless floating islands on the surface. Lord Guang said that these floating islands were actually dust floating on the surface of the water in the old man's cup. There were large and small floating islands, but they all had one thing in common, which was that they had no foundation. They all floated on the surface of the water and drifted along with the sea currents in certain areas. No one knew why these floating islands made of mud and rocks could float on the surface of the water and not sink. In the legends of the Transient Sea, people attributed this to the blessing of the sea god. Among them, the Treasure Island was a relatively large floating island in the Middle Sea region. In the vast sea of time, the Treasure Island was quite famous. Just like its name, it was a trading island. On this island, there were countless pirates from the 5 great sea regions. Everyone was here to exchange what they needed or to conspire. This was a chaotic island, but it represented a certain realm of order in the momentary sea. Countless large transactions took place here every day. They might be buying or selling treasures, supplies, slaves, or even the life and death of a famous pirate crew. As long as you have money, you can buy anything here. This was a sacred place for pirates to party, and it was also a port for people to obtain the qualifications to settle down in Middle-earth. Every day, there would be people handing over a considerable amount of gold berries here, abandoning their dreams of conquering the sea and obtaining the rarest ordinary life, becoming a new mainland resident recognized by the Middle-earth government. Similarly, every day, there would be hot-blooded youths from Middle-earth who would pull out a few people to establish a small pirate crew and set sail. Perhaps they would join a pirate crew that was currently recruiting crew members, starting from hard labor as they pursued their own legendary path. There were similar islands near the other continents, but Middle-earth had the largest surface area. The Treasure Island was the most famous in the momentary sea as a transit point between Middle-earth and the boundless sea. Because of this, even though Chen Guang had never left the Jade Sea, he was still very familiar with the words Treasure Island. Other than the countless floating islands, There were also several continents recorded in the Momentary Sea. These continents were distributed in various regions of the Momentary Sea. The largest one was located in the middle of the Momentary Sea, which was precisely Middle-earth. Its surface area was larger than Eurasia on Earth. These continents were the few continents in the entire Momentary Sea. Chen Guang said that these were actually flower petals floating on the surface of the water when the old man first entered the Momentary Sea. With Middle-earth as the coordinates, the Momentary Sea was broadly divided into 5 seas, namely the North, South, East, West, and Central Seas. These 5 seas were each divided into tens to hundreds of medium-sized seas. The Jade Sea, where the Enroyal was mainly active, belonged to one of the medium-sized seas, Obro. The area of the Jade Sea was even larger than the Pacific Ocean. Dozens of subordinate seas, similar in size to the Jade Sea, formed the Obro Sea. Obro, Pease, Bolek, Hyero, and so on, formed the West Sea of the Momentary Sea. Countless floating islands were scattered throughout the entire Momentary Sea. Some became small countries, while others were occupied by tyrannical pirate groups as strongholds. The distance between the different seas was extremely large. Even the neighboring Obro and Pease seas, even with the speed of a top-notch pirate ship like the Enroyal, which had the support of a mysterious power, it would still take at least a few years to make a round trip. Not to mention the long distance between the West Sea and the Central Sea. This was what Chen Guang knew when he was in the Momentary Sea. However, after he left, he didn't know what happened in the Momentary Sea. Why did the name of the Enroyal spread to the faraway treasure island, causing an old ruffian like Bob to tremble in fear upon hearing the name? He couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. "You've heard of me?" Chen Guang blocked old Bob in the alley and asked fiercely. Old Bob shook his head. "No." "Then why are you afraid of me?" Chen Guang felt strange. "I haven't heard of your name before. I've heard of the Enroyal. I also know of the legendary second mate who disappeared forever. The people on that ship are all demons. Every single one of them has the blessing of immortality." Old Bob's teeth chattered as he spoke, as though just saying the name was enough to make him feel fear. What happened to the Enroyal? How did and become a demon? Chen Guang endured the discomfort of the grease and pulled old Bob in front of him. Old Bob's face instantly turned pale and bloodless. He hugged his head in pain and shouted, "Oh my God! You actually called her by her name. Are you going to declare war on them? No, you're really the second mate of the Enroyal who disappeared. I'll give you 5 minutes to tell me everything you know. Otherwise, I'll crush every single bone in your body, inch by inch." Chen Guang was angered by this guy's reaction. Why was it so damn difficult to ask something? Unexpectedly, old Bob straightened his neck. "Sir, just kill me. I'm begging you, please don't force me to mention that terrifying name again. I'm begging you, I'd rather die than talk about them." "You're serious?" Chen Guang grabbed the old guy's neck and gradually raised him up. His entire body was overflowing with killing intent. Arriving at the familiar sea of moments, he gradually regained the feeling of the vicious and merciless second mate from before. His breathing became more and more difficult, and Bob's eyes gradually turned white. However, he still refused to let go. "Yes, sir, just kill me." After a long time, Chen Guang threw Bob to the ground dully. He had finally let this pitiful old guy go. "Forget it. Help me find a ship. I want to go to the West Sea. It shouldn't be difficult, right?" "Yes, sir." 2 hours later, Chen Guang changed out of his strange attire and placed it in a sack on his back. He slowly boarded a large ship with a group of hard laborers. Old Bob wasn't bragging. He was indeed well-informed and resourceful. Very quickly, he found out that the horseshoe pirates were about to head to the West Sea and were recruiting hard laborers. As a former second mate of a well-known pirate group, Chen Guang had held back a few tricks and was noticed by the crew of the horseshoe pirates and successfully boarded the ship. For some reason, the Enroyal seemed to have become a taboo name in the Sea of Moments. Chen Guang didn't ask any further and only planned to leave Treasure Island first. Once he met N, all his problems would naturally be solved. As long as he could enter the Sea of Moments, Chen Guang had a special method to reconnect with the previous crew members. He wasn't in a hurry to show off on the horseshoe. Instead, he curled up in the second floor of the ship with the other newly boarded laborers, waiting for his assignment. Some doubts lingered in his mind. He had to sort out his thoughts and at least figure out what the test of the world in cup was. In addition, unlike the previous times when he would immediately know the contents of the test when he entered the world in cup, this time, there wasn't the slightest movement after so long. This was very strange. He was still a little flustered. Just as he was thinking about this, a ray of light suddenly appeared in front of him. Chen Guang stared at it. Oh, it had indeed been upgraded. What appeared in front of him was a light screen, like a computer screen, with a line of words displayed on it. Mission objective: learn all languages in the Sea of Moments, a total of 4,978, and become the strongest language master in history. 4,978 foreign languages. F***ck me. Chen Guang slapped his forehead. He knew it would be this unlucky thing. Before he came in, he had only thought about two things. One was his acting skills, and the other was that he didn't understand what those foreigners were talking about, so he was in a bad mood. Of course, he wanted acting skills more. It was just in time to satisfy the urgent need of Big Beard Deng's movie. If he acted beautifully, he wanted to be famous anyway. It wasn't impossible for him to become a real movie king. But what were the benefits of becoming a language master? It could only be used to bicker with foreigners, alright? This was the world in one-line heavenly cup that only appeared once every month and a half. If he used it just like that, wouldn't it be a waste? But then again, he could only learn English in the world in Spirit Cup. After upgrading to one-line heavens, he could actually learn close to 5,000 foreign languages in one go, all the languages of Earth. Chapter 493. He started to imagine that after he went out, a few African students would be muttering in front of him, saying that they couldn't find their way or didn't know what was good to eat. Then, he would stand in front of them and chat with them in their native language. That scene would definitely scare them to tears. What Indians, what Amazons, what Inuit, bring it on. I'm proficient in 5,000 languages around the world. The strongest language genius in history, Old Master Chen Guang, who never changed his surname or name. Just imagining it made him feel that the effect of leveling up was explosive. This was something that ordinary people couldn't do. No, not even humans could do it. Without a doubt, this was very strong, so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. Forget it, since it was already like this, there seemed to be no other choice but to accept it. This kind of heaven-sent opportunity seemed to be something that others couldn't be envious of. Many people had acting skills, but it was difficult for one person to master 5,000 languages. Wouldn't this easily change human history? Other than that, it seemed very difficult to be recognized as the best in the world in acting skills. This thing didn't have any quantitative test standards, unlike piano, where there were at least 10 difficult pieces to challenge. The realm of a language master was different. As long as he could create an opportunity, he would be able to speak in all kinds of languages in front of the entire world. If anyone was dissatisfied, he could drag the aboriginals out and show them off. He didn't even need to prove that he knew 5,000 languages. Perhaps he just needed to practice a few hundred or so languages, and it would be enough to make everyone kneel before him. Judging from the difficulty of the tree god statue, it seemed that a language master was better than a movie king? The statue in the middle realm of the one-line heavenly cup was definitely much better than the heavenly spirit seeing sky, right? The production had to be doubled, right? Once he accepted this setting, it seemed that learning 5,000 foreign languages wasn't bad? F***ck, not bad my ass. The last time he came here to learn English, he died 95 times. This time, you want me to learn 5,000 languages. How many years do I have to learn? In addition, it was very likely that this was a monkey throwing a bun. Although the old man boasted that he was a genius, he couldn't possibly remember it, okay? Let the old man calm down for a while. I can't calm down. I want to die. Where would I go to learn how to talk to other people in the indigenous African language? Brother Black from Mauritius and Papalica from the Indians, wait for me to come out. I'm going to spit you to death, you bastards. Chen Guang pondered. Forget it. There's still a long way to go. Since we're already here, with the heavenly Holy Grail's character, it won't give us a way out. At most, we'll just waste time. Just as he was thinking this, the horseshoe picked up speed and left the port completely. Suddenly, the ship seemed to be hit by something, but it quickly returned to normal. Old Bob was walking back in boredom. Today was another fruitless day. Before that guy left, he had promised that there would be Kimberly, bread, and rum. In the end, nothing. Why do I feel like I've been tricked? Forget it. If that guy was really the second mate of the Enroyal, then he should be thankful that he was still alive. Just like the rumors, he had black hair, black eyes, yellow skin, and was extremely ruthless. In a storm 100 years ago, everyone saw his body slowly disintegrating into powder. It was said that he had been taken away by the god of the sky. In these 100 years, the Enroyal suddenly rose to prominence, starting from the Jade Sea. In just 100 years, they became one of the 12 strongest pirate groups in the Transient Sea. This was an invincible warship blessed by God. They had the most terrifying and crazy warriors, and every member had an immortal body. One had to know that the shortest existence of the other 11 pirate groups was at least 500 years old. In the past, the Enroyal wasn't an impressive pirate group and was only in the middle to upper reaches of the Jade Sea. Many people said that it was the treasures left behind by the god of the sky that turned the Enroyal from an ordinary person to a legend. With regards to this, Captain N, who was passionate about combat and women's rights, did not refute it. Moreover, according to insiders, this pirate group had indeed never had a second mate since 100 years ago. The legend of the disappeared second mate, Rai-Chin, accompanied by the rise of the Enroyal pirate group, resounded through every inch of the Transient Sea. Now that he was back and out to sea, he wanted to meet up with his crew. If it was really him, then there would probably be a bloodbath in the Transient Sea. How terrifying. Forget it, I'll just lie down and sleep. As long as I sleep, I won't be hungry. These things shouldn't be something a small character like me should care about. Old Bob, where's your house? Bring me there to rest. Suddenly, a demonic voice came from behind him. Old Bob turned around in a daze, his pupils growing larger and larger. He felt as though he had seen a living ghost. Heavens! Mr. Wright, I clearly saw the horseshoe leave in the sunset, but you... Old Bob choked on his words for a long time. Chen Guang was dripping wet, like a drowned rat. He waved his hand tiredly. All right, less nonsense. I'm very tired now. That's right, he was physically and mentally exhausted. At this moment, his heart was filled with 10,000 curses. On the second floor of the horseshoe, the first mate looked at the human-shaped hole in the cabin with an ashen face. Damn it! Who can tell me what's going on? A peon who was originally sitting beside the hole trembled. Sir, that person was originally sitting at the front, but he suddenly bumped into something. Then he was violently pushed against the wall. Following that, the deck of the ship was smashed by him and he fell down. That's right, it's definitely a ghost. Nonsense. There are no ghosts on the horseshoe. The angry first mate waved his sword fiercely, chopping the two fellows who said there were ghosts to the ground. Actually, these two poor fellows were wrongly accused. Only Chen Guang knew what was going on. He had no way of leaving Treasure Island. Sitting in the cabin, he bumped into an invisible wall that was very characteristic of the heavenly Holy Grail. It was also the boundary of the world in the cup that he was very familiar with. The horseshoe sailed away, but he who was sitting in the cabin was blocked by this invisible wall. As a result, his body broke through the planks of the ship, forcefully creating a human-shaped hole. In other words, the real Sea of Moments was the 8th layer of the immortal God realm. If his movement space was really as big as the entire Sea of Moments, then this would not be the world in the sliver of Heaven's cup. He had rich experience in this. Last time in the world of the piano, he was trapped on the Virginia. This time, he was trapped on Treasure Island. Thank the heavens, this Treasure Island had a diameter of 10 kilometers. With so many living people, it shouldn't be that boring, right? Chapter 494. Old Bob had been suffering for the past few days. He inexplicably provoked a guy who claimed to be the second mate of the Immortal, and he really couldn't beat him, nor could he drive him away. He hated the fact that he coveted this person's clothes that looked like they were made of good quality fabric. He was possessed and wanted to test him, but it turned out that he had led a wolf into the house and walked right into the trap. Since then, he had been stuck to him. The attic with only one room and one bed on the roof was occupied by a dove and a magpie's nest. The owner of the attic was beaten up and had no choice but to spend an entire day cleaning the place with tears in his eyes. Although the clean and tidy room looked quite comfortable, especially the bed with new bedsheets and cup covers, old Bob, who was used to sleeping in a dog kennel, couldn't believe his eyes. This was a star-rated hotel that could only be enjoyed after a big business deal. He really wanted to sleep there for a night. But old Bob said that he was sleeping on the floor. It had been 3 days since he was occupied. One person eating became 2 people eating, and this person with a big fist had a very picky appetite. It was extremely difficult to serve. "Sir, it's been 3 days. May I ask what are your plans? I've already sold the bronze fireplace for this roast goose. If I don't think of something, I can only move this bed for meat tomorrow." The two squatted on the ground together, and old Bob finally mustered up the courage to say so. Chen Guang raised his head and looked around. He was also quite embarrassed. Old Bob was right. This bed was indeed the last piece of furniture in this house that was less than 10 square meters. He always lived and ate his food and beat him up from time to time to urge him to work. It seemed to be a little too much. "Bob, don't worry. Since you followed me, I naturally won't let you suffer. I swear in the name of Right Chin. I already have a whole set of plans, but the situation is a little more complicated than I thought. You also refuse to talk to me about the current situation of my crew. You have to understand that it's all your fault that I can't contact my crew," Chen Guang promised casually. Bob wanted to cry. He wanted to shout out loud. "Actually, I didn't follow you. It was you who pestered me, okay? Also, we're really going bankrupt. Old friend, think of a way to tell me some information. And is a nice person. She's not as scary as you think. Let's talk about Immortal for a while. She won't come from the West Sea to eat you. As long as you follow me well, I can even introduce you to the ship and make you a member of the noble Royal Anne's crew. You know little Winnie, right? He's the slave we rescued from the Jibri pirates' floating island. He's a genius, and I'm the one Winnie admires the most. Believe me, as long as you follow me, our journey will be the sea of stars." Old Bob was shocked. "What? You're talking about the blood hand Wally who's ranked in the top 100 of the bounty list of the entire transient sea? Oh? Winnie Jr. was in the top 100 of the bounty list. Who the hell were the blood hand evildoers? When I left, he was just a cute snot-nosed ghost." "Sir, will you swear on your life that you are not deceiving me? If you really are the second mate of Right, I do dare to talk to you. But if you're not, people will really die. You don't know how terrifying the 12 emperors of the transient sea are, especially the ship of God Blessed, the Anne Royal. According to the rumors, no matter who you are, as long as you are in the Sea of Moments, if you dare to disrespect the Immortal verbally, the omnipresent gods will be their eyes and ears. They will definitely appear before you at a certain time and crush you into pieces. Idiot, you think I'm bragging after all this time? Also, was the Annie so mysterious? Don't you see how long I've been muttering here? So what if I scold him? Annie, come and hit me, you big-breasted girl. Why don't you come and beat me up?" Clapping his hands, Chen Guang continued, "Look, isn't there no one to beat me up?" Old Bob's face turned pale with fright again. He plopped to the ground and said, "No. Don't. I'm begging you, stop it, I'm begging you." All right, I won't curse anymore, okay? Can we get down to business now? Let's talk now." Old Bob finally relented. He swallowed his saliva. "Actually, this matter is too unimaginable, but they really are that strange. If not for the fact that I'm about to go bankrupt from being eaten by you, I would rather die. Even if you let me die, I wouldn't reveal a word to you. So now, let me ask you a question. As long as you can answer it, I will choose to believe you. Don't judge me by my poor appearance. Actually, I, Old Bob, am one of the most experienced intelligence merchants on Treasure Island. I know a lot of secrets that others don't. This is my ability to make a living. No problem, ask away. What's the relationship between Jack Sparrow, the captain of the Black Pearl Pirates, and the Annie Royal? I knew it. Old Jack would do things alone. In the past, I told Annie that he had a rebellious bone in his head and that he would definitely have a disloyal heart. Annie insisted on being stubborn and told me not to believe in the superstitions of the Eastern Magi. Chen Guang slapped his thigh and acted as if he was enlightened. Then he continued. Jack used to be the captain of the 2nd boarding combat team on the Annie Royal. I was also the captain of the 1st boarding combat team. Also, Jack Sparrow didn't go by that name at first. Originally, we all called him Old Jack. He didn't have a surname. The surname Sparrow was given to him by me. At that time, he asked me what the 3-word Sparrow meant. I told him it was very cool and everyone followed suit. After a long time, he accepted it. Chen Guang shrugged. Old Bob's eyes widened. Obviously, Chen Guang was right. It seems that I really have to believe you. 15 years ago, Jack Sparrow betrayed the Annie Royal. Now they are enemies. Furthermore, the Black Pearl Pirates are currently one of the top 100 strongest powers in the Sea of Transient. Old Bob finally relented and began to tell Chen Guang these secrets. Chen Guang didn't express his opinion. Wait, I feel that something is wrong. When I was on the ship, Old Jack was so old that he was about to enter his coffin. I originally thought that he wouldn't live for more than a few years. How could he still have the energy to torment himself like this? Mister, could it be that you don't know? In our Sea of Transient, the pinnacle powerhouses won't die. Impossible. Who wouldn't die? Chen Guang glared. Old Bob looked at Chen Guang for a long time. He seemed to have organized his words in his mind before saying, Frankly speaking, I'm very surprised that the legendary vice mate Chen doesn't know about this. However, when you left, the Annie Royal was only one of the top 10,000 pirate groups. At that time, your pirate group didn't have any undying rank powerhouses, so I don't find it strange. Following that, the two of them finally opened their hearts and chatted for a long time. Chen Guang received a huge shock. Old Bob, I know too many things today. To be honest, my mind is a little messed up now. Let me think about it quietly. You go find something to eat first. Tomorrow at the latest, we'll think of a way to change the situation. As it turned out, while the two of them were chatting, the prompts from the transcendent Holy Grail had never stopped. From the time he left the Sea of Transient until now, a little more than 3 months had passed in the real world. However, 100 years had passed in the Sea of Transient. This meant that without considering the time reset after death, the flow of time in the Sea of Transient and the real world was about the same as the passing of time in the real world. Apart from that, the biggest secret of the Sea of Transient was only known to Chen Guang. Old Bob told Chen Guang that in the entire oceanic world, the powerhouses ranked at the top would not truly die. They had a high chance of resurrection. For example, the captains of a few pirate groups, Blackbeard Teach, and Royals Annie Polly, Bartholomew, Kid, Red Hair Songies, David, Jack Sparrow, Terrifying Sickle. Some of these people had lived longer and had been captains for thousands of years. Even the newly promoted 12 emperors, Annie Polly, had died of old age 15 years ago at the age of 90. After that, she used 10 years to return to the Royal and reclaimed her captain position at the age of 10. Now, after her resurrection, Annie was already 15 years old. 15 years ago, when Annie passed away, he had already been reborn twice. At the age of 30, Jack Sparrow, who was in the prime of his life, took advantage of the unstable hearts of the crew to split up the Annie ship. He took his second battle team and betrayed the Royal Annie Pirates, starting to work alone. The strong would not die. This was an open secret in the circle of the strong in the Sea of Transient. In Treasure Island, the center of information and trade, many people knew about it. Back then, the Royal was in a remote area of the Jade Sea, and she was not strong enough to enter this circle. That was why she did not know about this. But later on, everyone on the Royal had the protection of immortality. Chen Guang speculated that they were indeed affected by him. Even among the other pirate groups of the 12 emperors, only a small number of the strongest members could reincarnate and not die. All the members could not die. This was the fundamental reason why the Royal could rise so quickly in 100 years. Little Winnie became a bloody villain whose name shook the 5 seas, and even Jack Sparrow, who worked alone, rose quickly. That was why the Royal was known as the Ship of Divine Protection. But Chen Guang knew that everyone else was wrong. From a certain point of view, everyone in the Sea of Transient would not die. This was because this was a space that was completely sealed off from the outside world. Death, to the people of the Sea of Transient, was just another form of existence in this sealed space. After the body decayed, it would become a wandering soul, waiting in line for the chance to reincarnate. The difference between the strong and the weak was that once one's strength reached a certain level, they could use their powerful strength to preserve the memories of their previous life when they were reborn. As for the weak, their memories could not be preserved. Every time they were reborn, it was the same as returning to zero. Even if they were revived, they would become another person, just like a child growing up in reality. This was death in name. Chapter 495. The people of the momentary sea did not know what was going on, they only knew that experts had a chance of surviving. Therefore, in this oceanic world, everyone would think of ways to become stronger, just for that sliver of hope of surviving. Everyone fought for all kinds of treasures amidst the rain of blood, just to obtain the mysterious power contained within the treasures. Or they cultivated black magic, signed contracts with all kinds of demons, selling their souls and bodies, just to obtain a bit more power. Or they became the so-called God's protector, or they pursued the pinnacle of royal authority, grasping all the treasures in the secular world in their hands, using gold, silver, and jewels to exchange for the power they wanted. Or they pursued the limits of their bodies and souls, going through cruel and bloody battles again and again to break through their true selves. Either die or become stronger. All of this was done by the people of the momentary sea, just to climb up the pyramid of the strong preying on the weak, to become a small group of undying rank experts at the top of the pyramid. After seeing through the essence of the world, Chen Guang sympathized with these people. How was this blissful undying? It was purely endless torture. The realm of the momentary sea was simply a huge cage. Everyone here was a soul that was kept in a cage. Even the so-called undying rank experts that were worshipped by the weak were actually just slightly higher-level lab rats in this cage. The people here would never be able to escape, they would only wander back and forth in the endless cycle of life and death in the momentary sea. No matter how hard they struggled to survive, constantly pursuing to become stronger, they were unable to escape the fate of being ants. The people in the realm of the momentary sea were truly too pitiful. Their lives were so hopeless. Yet, they did not know anything. Those so-called experts were immersed in their fake long lives, feeling complacent. They did not know that they were just frogs at the bottom of a well, birds in a cage. Here was the problem. Chen Guang himself was the master of the transcendent Holy Grail, and the realm of the transient sea was only a realm within the transcendent Holy Grail that was of a relatively higher realm. Chen Guang speculated that the people on the Royal were able to go against the norm and possess immortal souls even when they were weak. It was because they were enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail when they were with him that they were recognized by the realm of the transient sea as having the qualification to be immortal. In a sense, Annie and the others were indeed blessed by God. This God was, of course, the old man himself. Thinking of this, he actually felt good in his heart. Stop right there, the sexy huntress in leather who was passing by. You're just a meat toilet in the old man's world in a cup. There was also the cute girl standing at the bridgehead with 17 or 18 bodyguards behind her. Congratulations, you've already been chosen by the old man to become one of the trillions of cute girls here. Just wait for the old man to befriend you. This afternoon, as he chatted with old Bob, he listened to the notifications of the transcendent Holy Grail ringing in his ears from time to time. His mind was analyzing the information, and the true secrets of the transient sea were slowly unraveling in front of him like a scroll. The last time he came here, Chen Guang did not have the time to think so much. He was only thinking about how to survive for half a year. Moreover, his realm was too low at that time. He was only at the level of seeing spirit sky, so the transcendent Holy Grail would not reveal too much information to him. This time, he finally saw through the mysteries of this world as a genuine one-line sky realm cultivator. Apart from that, he finally met another condition after learning so many secrets. The second notification appeared on the mission screen, which made him heave a sigh of relief. Learning 4,978 languages did not require him to memorize them by himself like he did in the past. That was simply too difficult and nonsensical. Instead, there was another way of thinking. There were as many as 5,000 foreign languages, and many of them could not be recorded by computers. Humans could not learn them, and they were super minority languages that were about to be lost on Earth. At the very least, only a few dozen people knew them. If Chen Guang were to learn them like English, word by word, sentence by sentence, it would be nonsense. Back then, he could only learn English in the transient sea thanks to the 9-year compulsory education system. Otherwise, it would have been a waste. The mission he faced this time was too difficult, too profound, and too deceptive. Therefore, the considerate transcendent Holy Grail launched a special service. Devil Juice Series. First, he would spend 10 million faith points to exchange for a legendary devil juice extractor. Using this devil juice extractor, he would be able to produce a cup of fresh and delicious devil juice by spending another 600,000 faith points. As long as he could make someone drink this devil juice extractor willingly, Chen Guang would be able to obtain the other party's language ability. Of course, this was very difficult. Although Chen Guang was known as the second officer of the Royal, he was very clear that his personal strength was at most in the top 10,000 of the transient sea. If he were to jump around arrogantly and drink juice whenever he saw someone, it was very likely that he would end up being chopped into pieces by some big shots on Treasure Island. He was not afraid of death, after all, he could still resurrect. However, this resurrection would not reset, and his enemy was still there. He was afraid of dying again, 100 times in a row. Therefore, Chen Guang set his sights on another item that appeared on the mission screen, the divination ball worth 6 million faith points. This divination ball sounded like a piece of black technology, but it was actually just a communication device that could directly connect to the projection screen in the Cloud City in the outside world. Using this divination ball, under the premise of paying 10,000 faith points per minute, he could see any place in the transient sea. There was no place that he couldn't go. But here came the problem. Previously, when he had just broken through to one-line sky, Chen Guang used the projection screen to peep on Annie bathing in Cloud City. Calculating with his fingers, Annie should have been around 60 or 70 years old at that time. His face turned green. "You're an old monster. 60 or 70 years old, but you still look like a 30-year-old plump woman. I've really been fooled by you. Forget it, don't think about those useless things." Chen Guang clapped his hands. Here comes the idea. He opened a divination house and used the divination ball to divine for people. He specialized in searching for people and items. Then, in the name of black witchcraft, those who wanted to divine for him had to willingly consume the devil's juice. The price was that they would lose their ability to speak. In the real world, this kind of fraudulent business would not have any business. But this was the transient sea, a place where the strong preyed on the weak. This was the transient sea that contained countless treasures. Undying rank experts were not eternal. In the long history, there would always be undying rank experts who, due to various reasons, would lose their ability and qualifications to retain their memories during a rebirth. It could be that their power was taken away after they were defeated, or they could have done something that caused the gods to despise them and lose their qualifications. It could also be that too many rebirths diluted their memories of when they first became strong, or it could be that they were too unlucky. The reason was not important. The important thing was that these people would have to start from the beginning again after they were reborn. For example, There was an invincible overlord who once ruled the Eastern Sea region for 3,000 years. He had so many treasures that it made people's hair stand on end, but his paranoia made it so that he was the only one in his pirate crew who knew where the treasures were hidden. One time, this overlord very arrogantly ran to Middle-earth continent alone and slept with the king's daughter. The king paid the price of 2,000 soldiers' lives to capture him, but his pirate crew did not choose to save him and instead betrayed him. This overlord was executed with a smile. When he was executed, he said very arrogantly, "I will make a comeback. You want my treasures? Dream on." But in the end, he did not return and disappeared in the long river of history, just like many pirate kings who were as powerful as him in the past. It was said that his treasures were hidden in an even deeper sea region outside of the Eastern Sea region. He once revealed the name of that sea region to his subordinates. He called that place the Myriad Sea. This overlord's name was Gorger Roger. Even now, thousands of years had passed, and there were still many pirates who set off from the various seas, diving into the boundless outer realm sea in search of the illusory Myriad Peaks Sea, all for the sake of obtaining Roger's enormous wealth that was beyond everyone's imagination. In short, the history of the transient sea was too long, and the treasures that were lost in the depths of the sea were too many. The few continents with Middle-earth continent as the head also had their own legends. The numerous floating islands also had their own stories. Even Earth had a mysterious sea region like Bermuda that surpassed mankind's modern technological wisdom, let alone the transient sea, which was countless times larger. The mysteriousness and greatness of the sea was fully displayed in the transient sea. So, Chen Guang had reason to believe that his divination house would definitely prosper. Doing things in the name of the not uncommon black witchcraft was not considered ostentatious. One must know that in the transient sea, there were countless black witchcraft that was more vicious than taking away one's ability to speak. Compared to others, Chen Guang's was simply too gentle. So, now that everything was ready, he only lacked the faith points. Everything was perfect, but looking at the 387,465 faith points that had not increased at all since he entered, he was completely dumbfounded. The juicer required a total of 10 million. Producing a cup of juice required 600,000, the divination ball required 6 million, and maintaining the divination cost 10,000 per minute. The existing 390,000 faith points could only be exchanged for some gold berries in the transient sea. What's the use of it? No matter how one looked at it, he was adorable. Just as he was about to curse, suddenly, his faith points shot up a little. He waved his hand disinterestedly. A day in the real world was equivalent to a year in the momentary sea. Now that he was squatting here, he would earn about 100 points of faith every day. That would be about 50,000 points of income every year. After some calculations, it was not bad. As long as he stayed in the transient sea for 62,000 years, he would be able to survive after 170 years in the outside world. Not bad, Myas. 62,000 years. I'm going to call the police. Police uncle, save me, I've been kidnapped by the heavenly Holy Grail. It wants to lock me up for 62,000 years. This is not the same as the previous few times when my mind was locked up in the transient sea for 62,000 years. Today, I feel very normal at every moment, alright? If I were to live like an old monster in a treasure island for so many years, I would feel terrible. Just thinking about it makes me want to light a fire and burn myself to ashes, alright? How sick do I have to be to live for 62,000 years? Chapter 496. At this time, the Transcendent's Holy Grail's notification came. Due to the uniqueness of this mission, the Savior's time in the outside world is at a complete standstill. Chen Guang's tears flowed down his face. Alright, he doesn't need to see his own epitaph the moment he opens his eyes. Wait a minute. Since the outside world is at a complete standstill, why the hell did I suddenly gain a bit of faith? This doesn't make sense at all. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in his mind. It was a one-eyed, one-armed, one-handed woman standing on her ship and shouting at her crew. It was Lung Qin and her Radiance pirates who had inexplicably barged into the Sea of Moments. That's right, this bit of faith was given by her. Thanks to the Heavenly Holy Grail's data query function, Chen Guang checked back for 3 days. Just as he had expected, the faith output had been extremely stable over the past few days, with 1 point every day. Chen Guang clapped his hands. I'm also stupid. If the people outside can give me faith, then the people in the Sea of Moments should be able to as well. To be honest, with the population of the Sea of Moments and the technological level of the Middle Ages, if they could incite fanatical worship, why would they need to worry about faith? Thinking of this, he looked up some of the most basic parameters from the mission description screen. Only then did he realize that some of the data he had guessed based on common sense was wrong. Mission world name, Sea of Moments mission details. Master 4,978 languages world total population, about 178 billion mission completion, 0 realm of the fleeting sea mission completed. 1. Mission completed name, English learning. The population of this world was much more than he had imagined. This was because his activities were mainly concentrated in the Jade Sea and he had never been to other places. Apart from this, he didn't know that his flower tea had actually turned into several continents. At that time, the Enroyal was only the king of the Jade Sea. It was still a far cry from its current position of being one of the 12 ocean emperors of the 5 seas. Seeing the population, Chen Guang's eyes narrowed into slits. On Earth, his influence was mainly concentrated in his own country. Now, he could get about 50,000 faith points a day, and the population here was more than 100 times that of China. He was going to be rich. Pushing the door open with a bang, Chen Guang grabbed the collar of old Bob, who was squatting outside in a daze, and quickly walked to the Purple Rose bar outside the slums. There was a piano there. Old Bob, do you appreciate the piano? Old Bob's neck was painful. Mr. Wright. Wait, the door isn't closed yet. Don't talk nonsense. Is there anything worth stealing from that broken house of yours? I asked you if you know how to appreciate the piano. Old Bob looked at the front door with a pained expression. Mr. Wright, are you talking about the magnificent performances of those bards? I felt that it must have been the most melodious sound I had ever heard. Unfortunately, the guests in the bars of Treasure Island were too noble. We couldn't get in like this. In all these years, Purple Rose had only found a bard who could play the piano once. I heard that in order to have him play a song, the lady boss paid 3,000 gold berries and slept with the bard for free for half a year. I was lucky enough to be there. Oh, it was so much better than the ragged voices of men quarreling. Chen Guang's footsteps froze. It can't be? People who can play the piano are so respected? Old Bob nodded. Of course, in the entire sea of transient, the rarest people are musicians. They are even rarer than undying warriors. Is it that difficult to learn the piano? Old Bob shook his head, then nodded. I don't know if it's difficult or not, but every bard treasures his craft. They'd rather take their tunes to hell than teach them to others. No one left behind music scores? Isn't that bard a little too selfish? Chen Guang was puzzled. Old Bob was at a loss. Music scores? Butter cookies? What's that? Can they be eaten? If you talk nonsense with me again, I'll wring your neck. Old Bob was innocent. I really have never heard of music scores. Besides, bard is a profession that can communicate with God. Although this profession isn't strong in combat, it is easy for them to give birth to undying souls. Of course, they wouldn't easily teach their skills to others. Nonsense. Isn't it just playing the piano? Is it as miraculous as you say? Chen Guang was dumbfounded. An outstanding bard can play the sounds of nature. After a long period of slaughter, pirates naturally need to be influenced by the music of a bard that is like the sounds of nature. Only in this way can people forget the pain of being in a precarious situation. Only in this way can people obtain a short period of tranquility after the slaughter and training, and comprehend the true meaning of being stronger. It is said that there was once a pirate from the North Sea who advanced into hockey when a great master, musician Brook, one of the 12 ocean emperors, played it. Pooh! Chen Guang felt that he was about to collapse. Ever since he entered the Sea of Transient for the second time, he had been hearing Bob talk about mysterious powers, black magic, dark wizards, undying warriors, and the like. He didn't think too much about it before. At most, he felt that those powerful pirate lords were like the ones depicted in the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, possessing all sorts of supernatural powers. This should be a world where witchcraft and magic was the main focus. After all, when he was roaming the Jade Sea with Royal, he had never seen such powers. He had only occasionally heard from and that some pirates outside the Jade Sea possessed terrifying magic and were extremely powerful. Only now did he finally understand that the Jade Sea was too remote. To the entire Sea of Transient, it was a beginner's village. The contestants had yet to change their professions and didn't know how vast the outside world was. When he first heard about Blackbeard teach, he was only momentarily surprised. After all, this character in Pirates of the Caribbean, or even in the history of pirates in the real world, was a legendary character that couldn't be avoided. He personally created Jack Sparrow, which made him firmly believe that the entire pirate world in the Sea of Transient should be based on the movie Pirates of the Caribbean that he had seen in his mind. It wasn't until later when he heard about Gore's Roger and the 10,000 Peaks Sea that he subconsciously felt that something was wrong. However, he deliberately avoided that thought in his heart. He felt that his Sea of Moments shouldn't have such a miraculous method of opening, and that perhaps he could still save it. Now, when he suddenly heard the word hockey, he immediately felt that his whole body wasn't good. Hockey? Say it again? I didn't hear you clearly. He probed. This time, it was Bob's turn to express his surprise. My God! The great Right Chin, the legendary second mate, actually doesn't know hockey. That's right, only a true expert can possess hockey. This is almost the same as an undying warrior. You didn't even know what an undying warrior was before. Chen Guang face-bombed. All right, I'll accept my fate. I finally understand this time. Indeed, when the transcending Holy Grail constructed the Sea of Transient, it was indeed based on the Pirates of the Caribbean that he had watched not long ago. However, there was another unavoidable mountain in the pirate theme, the One Piece anime that was popular all over the world. When he was young and ignorant, he was also deeply attracted by this anime and it left a deep impression in his mind. It was just that in the past 2 years, he was busy earning money and he was getting older, so he didn't really like anime anymore. That was why he had forgotten about it. However, it still remained in his heart. Therefore, this Sea of Transient was equivalent to the combination of Pirates of the Caribbean and One Piece. There was black magic, the fountain of youth, and also hockey. However, there wasn't any devil fruit that could break the balance. All right, now that the old man himself is going to bring in the devil fruit juice, I'm really thankful that it's not a fruit. Apart from that, because of the Sea of Transient's sealed nature, when the transcending Holy Grail constructed this world from nothing, the two memories related to pirates mixed together and produced a miraculous chemical reaction. This also formed the unique characteristic of the Sea of Transient that an undying warrior possessed an undying soul. The realm in a cup constructed by the 8th heaven of immortals was indeed terrifying. Unlike other shrunken ponds, this was basically a huge and complete world. Moreover, from the moment it was created, it could continue existing on its own. Lazuli didn't lie back then. The Sea of Transient had already formed its own world. I'm actually a super complicated otaku that's a mixture of 2 and 3 dimensions. The dimensional barrier was broken, and in the end, I turned into this thing that's neither Chinese nor foreign, and it's even fully formed. I'm really sorry, transcending Holy Grail, it's really been hard on you. He couldn't help but think of Luffy in the real world. I'm really thankful that there's no rubber fruit Luffy in this world. Seeing that the bar was getting closer and closer, Chen Guang finally calmed down and instructed, "Oh right, Bob, when we reach Purple Rose, remember not to mention that I'm the second mate of Annie. Just call me Right and say that I don't have a surname, got it?" Bob didn't know why, but he knew that he shouldn't ask too many questions. "All right, Mr. Right. Then may I ask what you're going to do in the bar?" We can't afford a cup of the worst quality beer anymore. Qin Guang grinned. I'm going to play the piano. What? You're actually a bard? Bob's eyes widened. Qin Guang laughed. I don't know how good the bard music in this world is, but I can only tell you that there's absolutely no one who can compete with me in playing the piano. Now, old Bob, since you like it and know a little, you'd better adjust your frame of mind and get ready to adore me at your best. You'll become my second fan in the sea of transient. Follow me honestly, and I'll make you immortal. I almost believed you, Mr. Right. Come to think of it, fan? What's that? This time I can eat it, right? Scram. A fan is someone who especially admires me. Sir, even if you don't know how to play the piano, just based on your name, you're still my idol. No, this is different. All right, Bob, do you know the Radiance Pirates? Qin Guang suddenly remembered this matter. Poor Bob, he was so scared that he peed his pants again. Chapter 497. My Mr. Right. Do you have a fetish for powerful female captains? Qin Guang paused. He was about to reach the Purple Rose Bar. Why? The Radiance Pirates have been around for 25 years. They are rising like a comet, unstoppable. They are now one of the top 50 powers in the entire Sea of Time. Their captains, Lady Cord and Annie, are known as the two most powerful women in the Sea of Time. Many people even think that in a few years, the Radiance Pirates will replace one of the 12 Poseidons. For the first time in history, there will be 2 women among the 12 Poseidons of the Sea of Time. Everyone knows that the reason why Lady Cord can't break through the shackles of the 12 Poseidons is because she only has 1 hand, 1 leg, and 1 eye. But once she is reborn, no one will be able to stop her. Qin Guang expressed his astonishment. This is going against the heavens. F***ck me. He held onto the bar's door. Bob, go in first. Tell any of your old friends in the bar that I want to use their piano. I need to sit for a while and calm down. No matter what, whether it was Annie or Lung Qin, he had to find a way to contact one of them. Any one of them would be able to protect him. Who would have thought that the old man would have to rely on a woman to protect him in his own world? Forget it. Let's not think about that for now. Annie and Lung Qin were already at the top of the pyramid in the Sea of Time. Old Bob didn't even dare to mention Annie's name in private. He had just arrived and was unfamiliar with the place. He probably wouldn't be able to contact them for a while. Let's see if the people of the Sea of Time could give him faith first. The Purple Rose Bar was located at the junction of Bell Street. It was a small 2-story building that covered an area of about 300 to 400 square meters. The first floor was the bar's lobby, and the second floor was filled with the wretched transactions that the people of the Sea of Time loved to see. This bar was located at the border of the slums, and its positioning wasn't very high-end. Those who would come here to spend money were either lower-class residents of Treasure Island, such as people like Old Bob, or most of them were foreign pirates. People with taste would go to the wealthy area in the city center to spend money. As soon as Qin Guang pushed the door open, he smelled a strange odor. It was very unique, as if the body odor of dozens of men who had never taken a bath had been mixed together. However, the strong smell of alcohol had neutralized the stench. There was also the fragrance of roasted chicken, duck, and goose dripping with hot oil. The hall was very lively. Bare-chested, bronze-skinned men gathered in groups of 2s and 3s. Sometimes, they would laugh and drink with each other. Sometimes, they would arm wrestle with each other on the wooden tables of the bar. The loser would be dejected, and the winner would clamor that they had to buy him a drink. Otherwise, if they met someone with great strength, the only loser would be the bar table. At this time, the waitresses in the bar would stand in front of the group of men with a tearful expression and pitifully ask them to pay. Among the 70 or 80 guests here, there weren't any elegant people. They were all dressed differently. Some wore animal skins, some wore close-fitting brown leather armor, and some wore neat linen clothes. Most of them were bare-chested. In the large hall, the most elegantly dressed person was probably the bartender behind the counter. He was wearing a black vest and a white shirt. The tall bartender was pouring cocktails one after another with dazzling movements. Bob, on the other hand, was arguing with a young blonde in a lace dress behind him. He seemed to be very agitated. Chen Guang walked over. "Mr. Wright, this is Janet, the current owner of the Purple Rose. She doesn't agree with you using the piano." Old Bob himself did not believe in his heart that this Mr. Wright could play the pianoforte, but it had to be done. Chen Guang turned to look at Janet. This girl was roughly 15 or 16 with a well-developed figure. It was just that her face was covered in freckles that ruined her beauty. At the same time, she had a stubborn look on her face. "Sir, I don't know you, and I've never heard of you. My mother, who passed away last month, spent a lot of money to buy this piano. Although it hasn't been played for several years, I can't let an unknown person put his hand on it. What if it's damaged?" Janet said stubbornly. Old Bob's face darkened. "Janet, do you know who you're talking to? You'll bring disaster to yourself and your bar." Chen Guang waved his hand. "All right, Old Bob, shut up. Miss Janet, how much is this piano worth?" "You're Mr. Wright, right? Do you want to buy my piano?" 30,000 gold berries." Janet put up 3 fingers. Old Bob sprang to his feet. "Nonsense. 30,000 is brand new, but the dust on your piano can be used to build walls. It's been here for 10 years. Janet was neither servile nor overbearing. "But in these 10 years, it's only been played once, hasn't it? Uncle Bob, you're a regular customer of Purple Rose. You know best. Although it's old, it's also very new. Actually, I don't want to sell it. This is the memory my mother left me. You know how much my mother paid to have it played once. Here's 30,000 gold berries. I'm not buying it. I just need it to be played a few times. If you really break it, this money is my compensation to you. Otherwise, consider it a gift from me." Suddenly, Chen Guang took out a big sack from his back and threw it at Janet. The sack contained a total of 300 gold coins, each equivalent to 100 gold berries. *CK. "Mr. Wright, where did you get the money?" Bob felt like he was about to collapse. He'd been eating so much for the past few days. He didn't even give a dime the whole time. Suddenly throwing out 30,000 gold berries was really sad. Chen Guang grinned and patted the old man on the shoulder. "Bob, you have to understand that no amount of money can buy eternal immortality. Think about my former crew and captain. I wasn't sure before, but now I can tell you clearly that this is indeed my credit. You know." The 30,000 gold berries was directly exchanged with his faith points. The price was lower than he imagined. It only cost 300 faith points. It seemed that his existing nearly 390,000 faith points were enough for him to squander for many years. "Okay, sir, but when you go back tonight, can you first buy a dining table? It's detrimental to your noble status to squat on the floor and eat." Chen Guang ignored him. He had already climbed up the stairs and sat in front of the piano on the high platform in the corner of the hall. This fully handmade piano was actually not as shabby as Old Bob said. Although it couldn't find anyone to play, whether it was the former owner who had passed away or Janet who had just taken over the heavy responsibility, they actually valued it very much. There were people taking care of it every day, and the surface of the piano looked smooth and shiny. "Hey, who is this guy? Is he going to play the piano? Don't talk nonsense. Why would a bard come here? Shorty, get down here. Don't disturb our drinking, or I'll cut you into 8 pieces." As soon as Chen Guang sat down and rolled up his sleeves, many men below had already started to make a ruckus. For the bars near the slums, the appearance of every bard was a big deal. Even the noblest gold and silver bar in the center of the city could only find a bard to play twice a month on average. A few years ago, when there was a concert in Purple Rose, it was even advertised 3 months in advance. On that day, the entire street was filled with poor people who heard the news. Janet held the bag in her hand with a complicated expression, but she had no chance to regret it. Before Chen Guang played the first note, even Bob, who had accompanied him here, didn't believe that he could really play the piano. However, it only took Chen Guang 5 seconds to conquer the ears of these country bumpkins. When the first note of "Cannon" wandered in the bar, the noisy crowd instantly fell silent. Everyone's mouths were wide open. They couldn't believe their eyes, let alone their ears. This was really an amazing, talented bard. They had never heard this song before, but it was so beautiful. Everyone seemed to be surrounded by countless elf-like notes. They even had hallucinations of seeing elves cheering and jumping around them. The ethereal sound of the piano shook the hearts of these pirates, who usually only knew how to kill and drink blood. It was as if they had returned to their youth, returning to the naivety and ignorance before they set foot on the sea. What a beautiful sound! The crisp sound of the piano seemed to be hitting the softest ribs in the depths of these people's hearts. Bob's hands were clenched, his heart was beating fast, and his eyes were full of disbelief. He was even more shocked than when he had confirmed Qin Guang's identity for the first time. Oh my God, I've spent so many days with a noble bard. Yes, he had almost forgotten that Qin Guang was the second mate of the Enroyal, because a bard was so rare. Janet's hands clasped her chest tightly, her heart beating with the notes. Is this the magic of a bard? Why is my heart beating so fast? Why is my face so red? Why do my eyes seem to see a sky full of stars? The hot-tempered drunkards put down the wine glasses in their hands and turned their heads at the same time. They looked at the performer on the stage with reverence and confusion. It was the bard who seemed to have descended from the sky. They even subconsciously held their breaths, afraid to disturb this person. Qin Guang had only used one song to conquer the men and women in the bar. When the music stopped, the bar was silent. Some people even turned their faces away and gently wiped away the tears in their red eyes. Qin Guang put his hands away and looked around. He was also shocked by the situation below. My God, is this necessary? Although this is the divine song canon, isn't your reaction a little too intense? That bald-bearded man. I see that you're big and burly, and your body is comparable to Shark O'Neill's. What do you mean by pulling the tablecloth and wiping away your tears while listening to a piano? Also, little girl, please don't take off your clothes while approaching me, please be more reserved. Previously, Qin Guang thought that old Bob was bragging, recklessly raising the bard's status in the pugilistic world. But when he really performed a song, he realized that old Bob might have been wrong. A miracle! This is an incredible miracle. I am Baldev, the vicious wolf from the northern sea. I have roamed the 5 seas for 300 years, but I have never heard such beautiful music. Sir, you remind me of Sir Brooke's elegant demeanor. In the corner of the hall, a man dressed in the most luxurious clothes was the first to react. He stood up abruptly and clapped wildly with a flushed face. This was actually an undying rank expert. Previously, he had only brought his men to the corner to drink quietly, as if he had no intention of revealing his identity. However, Qin Guang's song, Canon, made this man so excited that he introduced himself, just to make Qin Guang look at him and nod his head in approval. Soon after, the pirates stood up one by one, crazily cheering and screaming. Yes, the previous Qin Guang was unknown, but without a doubt, just based on the song he had just played, he was destined to become a great bard. Mr. Right. My God. My Lord. My God. Please forgive my previous presumptuousness. Please continue to let me be your follower. Old Bob pounced over and laid his head under the piano. Qin Guang took off his shoes and threw them down, hitting Bob's head. Idiot! Get up! Don't embarrass me! At this moment, he saw a wisp of white smoke rising from Bob's head and flying towards him. Daily production of 2 points of faith. Success. There's hope. Not only Bob, in the huge bar, at least a few people had white smoke rising from their heads. It was the faith that Qin Guang urgently needed. Although the total production of faith from these people might not reach 10 points per day, it was already enough. Qin Guang just wanted to verify this matter today. Apart from that, he had only played one piece. Although they all recognized his talent, but just like what Baldev said before, in this world, there was still a musician as powerful as Brooke. Only a country bumpkin, who had never seen a bardic performance, or someone like Bob who had been brainwashed by him many times, would recognize him as the strongest in the world after just a short piece. For example, Baldev, although his face was full of worship and his mood couldn't be faked, He didn't provide any faith. Chen Guang wasn't in a hurry. He waved his hand and pointed to the other men who had given him faith and said, "Janet, give each of these friends a glass of rum. It's my treat." Bob pointed to himself. "Mister, what about me?" "Shut up." At this moment, Chen Guang threw the other shoe down. He stood up barefooted, pressed his hands down, and made a gesture for everyone to be quiet. Then he said, "Hello everyone, my name is Wright, and I am the most talented bard in the world. Please remember this sentence, and in 4 hours, you will repeat this sentence to everyone you meet." Baldev seemed to want to refute, but in the end he didn't dare to open his mouth. He just sat down unwillingly. Obviously, Brooke's position in his heart was very high. Chen Guang was also paying attention to him. He thought, "Young man, don't worry, you'll soon know whether I'm bragging or not." To Alice, Autumn Whisper, Croatian Rhapsody, Moonlight Song, Swan Lake, in just one afternoon, these classic songs from the hands of a master, in the hands of Chen Guang, the most powerful pianist in history, a humanoid piano player, fell from the sky and appeared in front of these people's ears. Every single one of them had never appeared in the Sea of Moments before, but every single one of them was so moving. Baldev's mood changed from worship at the very beginning to doubt Brooke, and finally to trembling all over and madly worshipping Brooke. It only took an entire afternoon for this to happen. For hours later, Baldev slowly got up, his right hand gradually turned black, and a burst of black gas came out from it. His armament hockey has advanced. The Purple Rose Bar was packed to the brim with hundreds of people. They were filled with admiration and speechlessness. They are worshipping the strong Baldev, and they are worshipping Mr. Wright, who is sitting on the high platform and playing the movement of God. That's all for today's performance. Thank you for your support. Chen Guang got up and took a deep breath. Hundreds of faith points turned into mist and gushed out from the forehead of each of the hundreds of people present. 1,000 points a day. When he thought of the 178 billion people in the world of the Sea of Moments, Chen Guang was overwhelmed by this sudden happiness. I'm not dreaming, am I? It seems that the bards in the Sea of Moments are very popular. If he can get each person in the Sea of Moments to provide an average of 1 point of faith points, it will be a total of 178 billion. The flow of time in the Sea of Moments and the real world is about 365 to 1. After he goes out, will he become rich in a second? Oh no, become rich in a second? Wishful thinking, you can still sleep. Ruri's voice came at an untimely time. She came to pour cold water on him. Chen Guang was unhappy. Why? But isn't it all faith points? Ruri smirked. When you play Dota or World of Warcraft, can the gold coins you earn in the game be used to buy a computer? Chen Guang, no. Isn't that it? The Sea of Moments is just one of the 3,000 lower planes of the Holy Grail, which is one level lower than the real world. The faith points you earn here, isn't it the same as the gold coins you earn in the game? Is it hard to understand? Chen Guang face-bombed. I understand the logic, but my heart still hurts. Something isn't right. Lung Qin's faith points are different. I've also noticed that person. She's not a native of the temporal ocean. Her soul is fundamentally different from the souls of the people in the temporal ocean. They can't be mentioned in the same breath. It was rare for Lu Li to explain. When I found out the truth, my tears fell. I really have no fighting spirit now. Chen Guang was a little bored. Ruri consoled, don't be too desperate. If you can complete the test of the Sea of Moments in the real world and create a statue, I have a way to make use of the faith points here. When you played World of Warcraft, you could buy a 45 renminbi card with 3,000 gold coins. Isn't that the same logic? Chen Guang was overjoyed. That's great. 178 billion divided by. Don't count, it's not that much, it's very difficult to convert, the levels of the planes are very strict. Even if it's only one level difference, it's a world of difference. Based on my guess, by the time you build a statue, you'll at most get 10,000 a day. Ruri had been pouring cold water on him for decades. Chen Guang was satisfied. All right, it's actually not bad. Chapter 498. The next day, the Purple Rose Bar announced its closure, disappointing many pirates and music fans who came after hearing the news. Yesterday's incident happened in a hurry, but when Chen Guang played the second half of the song, the people on Treasure Island, whether noble or lowly, began to rush over. However, the Purple Rose Bar was only so big. After squeezing 800 people inside, there was almost no place to stay. The latecomers, even the noble and powerful immortal rank pirates, could only wait outside the door bitterly, trying to get the Purple Rose Bar to open the window so that they could listen to the music coming from the window. If it was another place, how could these brave and ruthless pirates be so obedient? Even if it was just a matter of going to the toilet, they would draw their swords against each other. However, it was rumored that there was an unprecedentedly powerful bard sitting inside, so they didn't dare to act rashly. Usually, the strength of a bard was judged by the movement that the bard mastered. After all, except for a small number of strong dual cultivators, such as Brook, the bard's combat strength was not very good, but no one dared to look down on them. Just like yesterday's Baldev the Vicious Wolf. Although it was well known that he increased his haki on the spot while enjoying the movement, it was still very rare. Being able to make others stronger would earn the respect of the world. There were even many powerful pirates who had been helped by the bard and regarded him as their own soul teacher. The truly terrifying thing about a bard was that behind him stood countless powerful pirates who had been helped by him. If there was no irreconcilable hatred, no one would be willing to offend a bard. After a night of brewing, the news spread throughout Treasure Island. So many people came to the door of the Purple Rose Bar early today. However, the bar was closed. More and more people gathered outside, and everyone was very anxious. They were afraid that it would be like yesterday, that there would be no seats if they went in late. Finally, everyone elected someone to knock on the door. The one elected was the deputy captain of the Treasure Island Guards, Gale. He was close to the previous lady boss of the Purple Rose Bar, Janet's mother. There were even rumors that he was Janet's father. Although he never admitted it, it was indeed Gale who took care of the Purple Rose Bar all these years. Janet's mother was able to maintain such a bar on Treasure Island as a woman. "Janet, I'm your Uncle Gale, open the door." Gale carefully knocked on the wooden door. After a short while, Janet opened the door and welcomed Gale in. She then bowed to the people waiting outside and said, "Janet apologizes to everyone for making everyone wait outside for so long. Please don't worry, Mr. Wright has already purchased Purple Rose. The store needs a few days of renovation and will reopen in a few days." "Welcome to Wright's Bar. I'm your manager, Janet." The little girl made a mischievous expression, and the crowd outside immediately burst into thunderous cheers. The reason why they rushed here was that they were afraid that Bard Wright would leave after yesterday's performance. After all, everyone knew that Bard Wright was unrestrained, mysterious, and had a high status. She didn't expect him to buy this bar and change it to his own name. What did this mean? This meant that Mr. Wright would be performing here in the future. At this time, Chen Guang also walked out, and the people outside became even more excited. "He's Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright. I'm Abood from West Blue. Please let me listen to your music. I'm willing to pay 10,000 gold berries. Mr. Wright, please let me be your follower. I have observation haki. I'm Mary from the Bloody Mary bar in the city. Mr. Wright, please come to my bar and play a show. I'm willing to serve you for a year." Everyone shouted loudly and subconsciously began to crowd forward. "Mr. Wright, do you need me to stop them?" Baldev gritted his teeth and moved his sturdy body forward. After one night, Baldev, the North Sea Vicious Wolf, has given up his identity as the leader of the Vicious Wolf Pirates and chose to stay in Purple Rose, stay with Chen Guang, and become a follower of Chen Guang. Although he had a rough appearance, just like his nickname, Vicious Wolf, he had keen insight. Baldev knows very well that as long as Mr. Wright is willing to take him in and serve him, there will be many opportunities to listen to his performance. Sooner or later, under his influence, he will be able to comprehend the legendary Haoshiku haki. Chen Guang raised his hand slightly with a calm expression and pressed it down. "Everyone, don't quarrel. Be quiet, please be quiet." Although his voice was very light, His words carried enormous weight. The noisy crowd quieted down in an instant. The change was so fast that Qin Guang himself was surprised. But he quickly adjusted his mood and put a warm smile on his face. Hello everyone, I'm Right, the owner of the Right Bar. As many of you can imagine, I'm tired of being homeless and traveling. Now, I want to stop my pursuit of truth and share with you the philosophy of life that I've learned from the sun, the tides, the storms, the quiet and serene night sky, the sunny noon, and the endless beautiful scenery. There was no need to prepare a draft when bragging. Bob, who was hiding behind him, muttered, "Mr. Right really knows how to brag, he's at most 100 years old." "Oh Bob, what did you say?" Baldef next to him asked. Bob's eyes widened. "I'm Mr. Right's first follower. You have to call me Mr. Bob." "Okay, little Bob." Bob was furious, but there was nothing he could do. With Baldef's age as an undead rank expert, calling him little Bob really wasn't inappropriate. Chen Guang didn't have time to care about what the two people behind him were whispering about, but continued to maintain his noble, elegant, mysterious, and imposing appearance. Sure enough, the crowd outside was moved by his saintly appearance. Heavens! How poetic! Mr. Right has actually lived for thousands of years. Who would have thought that there would be such a great and almost immortal bard above the sea? Silently comprehending life, and now so generously helping others, you are simply the second sun that always shines in the sky. Just like your name, your brilliance will illuminate the entire transient sea. Almighty Right. Generous Right. Light of the Treasure Island. Chen Guang's face was about to burst from smiling. He hadn't even started work yet, but the 1,000 to 2,000 people below were already sending letters of admiration. What innocent and adorable people, what pure faith, I really love you guys to death, my honest little friends. However, I can't let everyone come here for nothing. Bob, Baldef, find a few more people and break down the wall for me. I want to play the song Blue Danube River. Chen Guang shook his windbreaker, turned around, and walked back. Baldef, go. Bob shrunk back. You are an undead rank expert, my old arms and legs can't handle it. Bang! The mud wall beside the piano was smashed by Baldef's iron fist, revealing the piano inside. Half of Bob's body was thrown to the side of the piano. Baldef, you idiot! Be gentle. Don't hurt this noble piano. This is a divine artifact that Mr. Right touched before. Chen Guang and Baldef looked at Bob, simultaneously having the urge to strangle him to death. A song Blue Danube River, dedicated to everyone. The forever noisy slum district had never experienced such a moment of peace. Although the sound was faint, it resounded through every corner of the street. Even Gale, who had a high status as the vice captain of the guards, was sitting cross-legged on the street floor like a beggar. At this moment, regardless of whether it was an undead rank expert, a homeless person with tattered clothes, or a noble from Middle Continent, they were all so quiet and serene. As the notes surged, a sparkling river slowly flowed through everyone's heart. They recalled the innocence of their childhood and lamented the impermanence of life. 10 minutes later, Chen Guang stood up from the piano and lightly bowed to the audience. After a moment of silence, the crowd burst into thunderous cheers. A white mist with more than 2,000 faith points emerged in everyone's mind. The lady boss of Bloody Mary Bar, Mary, even gave Chen Guang close to 5 points of faith. Her bar often invited wandering poets, and she clearly understood how great Chen Guang was. From this moment on, the name of the Light of Treasure Island, Right, resounded throughout the island, accompanied by the sails and swords of the pirates, spreading to every corner of the Sea of Time. 15 days later, the renovated Right's Bar reopened. In fact, Chen Guang only spent 300,000 gold berries and 3,000 faith points to obtain the ownership of Right's Bar. In the beginning, Bob suggested moving the bar to the center of the city, but Chen Guang rejected that foolish suggestion. Don't look down on Purple Rose's port just because it wasn't a great place, but it was a medium-sized plaza that could accommodate 2,000 people. On the treasure island with a diameter of only 10 kilometers, It was not an exaggeration to say that every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Walking through the entire treasure island, one would not be able to find a bigger square than the Purple Roses Street. What Chen Guang cared about was not the lowliness and nobility of the audience. He even hoped that his audience were all poor people. In this sea of time where the weak are prey to the strong, the lower the weak, the more they desire to obtain stronger power, and the more they are willing to sell their souls for strength. It was much easier to get these people to give faith points than to get those rich nobles to submit. What he wanted was the number of people in the audience. The reason why he wanted to break that wall was because Chen Guang wanted more people outside to hear his performance. This was a legendary afternoon. A total of 30 Guqin songs, including City in the Sky, Walk in the Rain, Wild Bee Dance, Mark of the Rain, Pathétique, and other famous songs with different styles, gave thousands of listeners inside and outside Wright's bar a godlike experience. In the long history of the Sea of Moments, there had never been a wandering bard like Chen Guang, playing for 4 hours in one go. Furthermore, every piece was different, and they had never heard of any of them before. But they were all so perfect and pleasant to the ear. Buldev was even more excited and trembling. As an audience of Chen Guang's last 4-hour concert, he can be 100% sure that the song played by Mr. Wright this time is completely different from the last time. In this afternoon, 4 undead rank powerhouses sitting in Wright's bar advanced hockey. Among the thousands of listeners outside, 3 or 4 people comprehended observation hockey on the spot. Chen Guang used this public concert to conquer the entire Treasure Island, becoming the veritable light of Treasure Island. Sir, there are a total of 139 girls registered here, eager to get your favor. I have used the aesthetic standards I learned from you to conduct a preliminary selection of them, leaving only 8 real beauties. Do you think I should let them come over? Chen Guang was overjoyed. Old Bob, am I a shoemaker? After a while, Chen Guang asked. Old Bob was at a loss. No, you are a bard. But I don't remember teaching you how to choose a shoemaker. Are you blind? Is this my aesthetic standard? Did you learn the aesthetic standard of my feet? Chen Guang sent that fellow flying with a kick. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.